After dying in an accident caused by a manipulative woman, Tama was reincarnated into a fantasy world. Remembering how a party crusher had ruined his previous life, he hoped to avoid repeating that painful experience. 2 years later, Tama successfully led the White Oath Party. Following another completed mission, he gathered his companions at the Guild Tavern to celebrate their safe return and growing achievements. The group discussed how to spend their reward. Clay planned to purchase new spellbooks, believing they would strengthen his magic and support future adventures. Meanwhile, Gornoff excitedly decided to spend his share on entertainment. Toma smiled quietly, realizing his teammates still enjoyed their unique hobbies, despite their different personalities. Although their interests differed greatly, the three had built a strong friendship through years of teamwork. Their peaceful gathering changed when Gornoff mentioned a strange rumor about a neighboring class party. Gornoff revealed that a neighboring class party had collapsed after recruiting a new white mage. Hearing the rumor, Toma suddenly remembered his painful past and felt uneasy about the unexpected coincidence. Although Toma's mysterious skill briefly warned him of danger, Clay dismissed the alert as overly broad. Meanwhile, Gornoff confidently insisted their strong friendship would never allow such a disaster. The three reaffirmed their trust in one another, believing their teamwork could overcome any challenge. Their confidence erased Toma's worries, allowing the conversation to shift toward planning another adventure. Before they could continue discussing their next destination, a young woman unexpectedly entered the tavern and politely searched for the White Oath Party. The visitor introduced herself as Maria, a white mage seeking companions. She sincerely requested permission to join White Oath, leaving Toma frozen as his worst fears suddenly became reality. Maria shyly approached White Oath after introducing herself. Gornoff and Clay immediately welcomed the beautiful newcomer, while Toma watched their sudden change in attitude with growing concern. Feeling guilty for appearing without warning, Maria apologized for interrupting them. Toma reassured her that requesting to join another party was completely reasonable and not her fault. Maria revealed that her previous party had abandoned her after leaving her behind during a dungeon expedition. Unable to continue alone, she searched for trustworthy companions with a better reputation. Hearing her difficult past, Gornoff and Clay quickly invited Maria into White Oath. Tama tried stopping their hasty decision, but neither companion wanted to ignore someone needing help. Overjoyed by their kindness, Maria gratefully accepted the invitation and promised to contribute everything she could. Tama remained uneasy, sensing their peaceful party had entered an uncertain new chapter. Maria's pleading expression made Toma hesitate, while her appearance strangely triggered another warning from his mysterious skill. Despite his doubts, he decided to accept her on a 1-week trial. Gornoff and Clay eagerly introduced Maria to the party and asked cheerful questions. While everyone welcomed her warmly, Maria secretly smiled, believing the three adventurers were easy to deceive. The following day, White Oath gathered for a dungeon expedition. Toma carefully observed his companions, wondering whether Maria's arrival had already begun changing their behavior. Before entering the dungeon, Toma questioned Gornoff and Clay about their unusual attitudes. Both confidently insisted that nothing had changed since Maria joined the party. Toma's concerns quickly deepened when Gornoff and Clay suddenly appeared half-dressed, proudly displaying themselves while Maria watched nearby. Their embarrassing behavior convinced him something was already going terribly wrong. Tama was shocked after learning Gornoff and Clay had sold their armor to buy Maria a powerful staff. Their reckless decision convinced him their judgment had already become dangerously distorted. The party entered the dungeon despite Tama's objections. While Maria smiled warmly, she secretly decided she had to destroy White Oath before the group's foolish behavior trapped her forever. As they advanced deeper underground, Tama's mysterious warning skill reacted strongly toward Maria. He struggled to understand why a healer seemed connected to the danger threatening the party. Moments later, a powerful B-class monster appeared nearby. Toma realized his skill had actually detected the approaching beast rather than Maria, though his uneasy feeling remained. After defeating the monsters and gathering magic stones, the expedition seemed complete. However, Toma's warning still refused to disappear, leaving him convinced an unseen threat remained inside the dungeon. Maria admired a large magic stone while pretending to be impressed. Toma noticed Gornoff and Clay paying excessive attention to her, making him increasingly uncomfortable with their unusual behavior. After collecting the magic stones, Maria politely asked to hold them for safekeeping. Behind her friendly smile, she quietly prepared the next step of her hidden plan. Maria suddenly stumbled toward Toma while carrying the stones. He instinctively reached out to catch her before she could fall onto the rocky dungeon floor. The unexpected collision left both of them on the ground together. Toma immediately checked whether Maria had been injured during the accidental fall. Blushing deeply, Maria apologized for her clumsiness with an embarrassed smile. Toma accepted her apology, unaware the incident had unfolded exactly as she intended. After helping Maria stand, Toma felt another powerful warning from his mysterious skill. The strange sensation continued despite the dungeon appearing completely safe, leaving him deeply confused. The unexpected scene reminded Toma of the manipulative woman from his previous life. He recalled how she had deliberately created intimate situations before slowly destroying every friendship around him. Remembering those painful events, Toma realized the woman's final move had been making him believe she had fallen in love with him. The similarity to Maria's behavior alarmed him immediately. Everything suddenly became clear as Toma understood his warning skill had never targeted monsters. Instead, it had been detecting Maria herself as the true danger approaching. White Oath. Toma finally recognized that Maria possessed the same destructive nature as the woman from Earth. Determined to protect his companions, he prepared to stop another party from falling apart. Toma confirmed his suspicion that Maria was a genuine party destroyer. Realizing how dangerous she truly was, he vowed to stop her before White Oath suffered the same fate as other adventuring groups. Fear spread through Toma as he understood Maria could easily manipulate an all-male party. He knew allowing her schemes to continue would eventually destroy the trust between every member. When another staged accident occurred, Toma deliberately refused to react as Maria expected. His unusual response surprised her, making Maria realize someone had already uncovered her true intentions. Maria secretly mocked Gornoff and Clay for blindly trusting her, confident they would never believe Toma's warnings. She prepared her strongest method to dominate the party completely. Maria released an overwhelming presence that triggered Toma's warning skill more intensely than ever. Facing the terrifying threat alone, Toma resolved to protect White Oath regardless of the danger ahead. Toma invited everyone to celebrate at the Guild Tavern, hoping to confront Maria in a controlled setting. Maria happily accepted, realizing their contest had quietly entered a new stage. As the banquet continued, Gornoff and Clay quickly fell asleep after drinking. Toma remained awake, recognizing that Maria had already turned her attention entirely toward him. Prepared by memories from his previous life, Toma secretly countered Maria's plan. He alternated water with wine and chose foods that helped him resist becoming intoxicated. Maria was shocked when Toma exposed every trick she had expected to succeed. His careful preparations prevented him from losing consciousness despite the long drinking session. Realizing alcohol had failed, Maria abandoned that approach and moved closer to Toma with another scheme. She calmly prepared a different method to break his resistance and achieve her objective. Maria boldly moved closer and continued tempting Toma with increasingly intimate behavior. Although flustered, Toma struggled to stay focused, refusing to let her manipulation control his judgment. Maria whispered that their secret should remain between them, believing her relentless approach would eventually break Toma's resistance. Even so, he continued fighting against her calculated psychological attack. Despite recognizing Maria's strategy, Toma admitted her persistence remained effective. Confident no ordinary man could endure such pressure, Maria launched her strongest attempt to overwhelm his resolve. Realizing he was reaching his limit, Toma calmed himself through meditation and disciplined breathing. Clearing unnecessary thoughts allowed him to regain complete control over both his mind and emotions. Toma returned with a peaceful expression that completely confused Maria. Watching her seductive tactics fail, she could only stare in disbelief as her confidence slowly began to crumble. Believing he had finally won, Toma prepared to wake Clay and Gornoff. Maria calmly refilled his drink, hiding one last trick behind her gentle smile. Moments after drinking, Toma suddenly felt dizzy and struggled to remain conscious. His body weakened unexpectedly as confusion replaced the confidence he had just regained. Maria revealed that she had secretly mixed a sleeping potion into the wine. Smiling proudly, she admitted Toma had been the most difficult target she had ever manipulated. Toma desperately tried to stay awake while calling for Clay and Gornoff, but both companions remained completely unconscious. With nobody able to help, his situation became increasingly hopeless. When Toma finally regained awareness, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. His warning skill activated once more, telling him that an even greater danger was still approaching. Toma regained consciousness and discovered Maria sitting beside him. Realizing he had been taken to a suspicious hotel, he immediately understood her plan had entered its final stage. Although the sleeping potion still affected his body, Toma forced himself to think calmly. He realized Clay and Gornoff would easily misunderstand everything if they found him there with Maria. Knowing rumors would destroy White Oath, Toma decided escape was his only option. Before sunrise exposed them together, he desperately searched for a way out of the room. Just as Toma prepared to flee, Maria noticed him moving. Shock spread across her face because the potion should have kept him unconscious much longer. Maria rushed to stop Toma before he escaped the hotel. Meanwhile, Toma remained determined to avoid the trap and protect his party's reputation at any cost. Maria realized the sleeping potion was still affecting Toma despite his resistance. Believing time remained on her side, she decided to delay him until the drug completely overwhelmed his body. Struggling against the growing drowsiness, Toma thanked Maria before pretending to leave calmly. Secretly, he hurried toward the exit, knowing he would lose consciousness if he stayed longer. Maria blocked his escape and insisted they spend the night together. Toma firmly denied her misunderstanding, but the potion steadily weakened his body with every passing moment. At his limit, Toma collapsed onto the bed before reaching the door. Maria watched silently as exhaustion and the powerful sleeping potion finally overcame his determination. Confident she had secured her objective, Maria smiled with satisfaction. Believing the night's events would permanently damage White Oath's trust, she declared victory over Toma's desperate resistance. As Toma lay unconscious, Maria celebrated her apparent victory. She planned to accuse him of misconduct afterward, believing the fabricated scandal would permanently destroy White Oath's trust and friendship. Refusing to surrender, Toma's companion activated his stored skill points. Using a powerful recovery ability, the mysterious creature restored Toma's condition before the sleeping potion could completely defeat him. The recovery skill instantly awakened Toma with renewed strength. Maria stared in disbelief, unable to understand how someone she had already defeated could suddenly stand up again. Toma rushed forward before Maria could react further. His unexpected recovery completely disrupted her carefully prepared plan and forced her onto the defensive for the first time. Facing Maria directly, Toma declared he would never allow her to create a false one-night scandal. Meanwhile, Maria realized her opponent kept overcoming every scheme she had carefully prepared. Maria refused to accept defeat after every previous scheme had failed. Desperate to win, she decided her final option was using the sleeping potion through direct physical contact with Toma. Gathering her courage, Maria abandoned her usual tricks and prepared a far bolder approach. Toma immediately realized she intended a direct confrontation instead of another hidden scheme. Both stood facing each other, refusing to back down. Toma declared he would resist until the end, while Maria remained determined to achieve victory by any means necessary. The tense standoff suddenly ended when Toma asked Maria a simple question. His unexpected words froze her in place, completely interrupting the momentum of her final plan. Embarrassed by the question, Maria admitted no man had ever seen her undressed before. Her flustered reaction surprised Toma, revealing an innocent side he had never expected. Toma calmly questioned Maria's motives instead of condemning her actions. His sincere curiosity gradually weakened the walls she had built around herself. Maria admitted she had deceived other adventuring parties before because surviving alone was difficult. Toma listened quietly, believing honesty mattered more than past mistakes. Hearing Toma already considered her a future companion left Maria speechless. Genuine trust stirred emotions she had never expected to feel. Toma jokingly urged Maria to get dressed and join tomorrow's dungeon expedition. Embarrassment replaced her confidence as she hurried to cover herself. Flustered beyond words, Maria accidentally loosened her clothing while trying to dress. The awkward moment deepened her confusion over Toma's unexpected kindness. Toma accidentally crashed into Maria while escaping, sending them both through the hotel window before he safely fled the awkward situation. Elsewhere, a mysterious woman received a report identified Toma as another person from Earth and grew interested after reading the unexpected outcome. Remembering his narrow escape, Toma hurried away while Maria remained embarrassed and frustrated by her failed plan. Despite everything, Maria's superior unexpectedly assigned her to accompany Toma, leaving both surprised as their complicated relationship continued. In the royal capital of Kiribati, a young adventurer lives among heroes summoned to defeat the Demon King, though he uncertainties he belongs next to them. A recently added white mage remains near to him, her playful charm hiding a disruptive influence. With no alert, she appears beneath him, studying his startled response with clear amusement. The following day, she comes to once more as if nothing at all happened. When she remembers yesterday's incident, his fragile peace starts to crumble. The white mage faces him daringly, announcing revenge for yesterday while activating an odd device. Surprise moves across his expression as the tool responds. With stable certainty, she says she has changed and demands obedience, insisting the result shows his dishonesty. Rather of withdrawing, he challenges her accusation, meeting her gaze despite their visible tension. Bending nearer, she asserts he succumbed to her advances before, exposing what she calls his real nature. Smiling silently, she discloses the necklace detects lies only she can see, tightening her restraint over him. Embarrassed yet determined, The white mage accuses him of lying about yesterday's events, insisting his conduct was improper. Smirking, she argues that as a man he would naturally hide his desires beneath excuses, pressing him more. Irritation rises inside him, but rather of withdrawing, he declares a duel to settle the matter directly. Together they head to the adventurer, attracting focus from those near. Within, two flamboyantly dressed men greet them casually, claiming they are merely following the latest trend. Two adventurer Alice boast about their flashy outfits, searching for Maria's approval. She stares at them, unsure whether the exaggerated display is serious. Her necklace remains silent, proving their admiration is genuine. Refocusing, the party readies to accept a commission and head out. They reach the Uza Plains, reviewing funds and gear as their following journey silently starts. Maria grins warmly, insisting she can heal the others with holy spellcraft and silently worrying about their safety. Abruptly, she raises her voice, announcing she declines to see either of them hurt, surprising the men. Touched by her worry, they accept her resolve while the party chief observes in silence. Beneath her soft expression, she thinks about how to win him over. As wind sweeps the plains, she comes nearer, planning to make her advance seem accidental. The three men abruptly sense movement and turn toward Maria as she walks ahead among them. Teardrops fill her eyes while she says sorry for screaming, claiming she was frightened, though her display feels rehearsed. The men hurriedly reject seeing anything, their responses awkward and easy to predict. Dropping the act, she criticizes their simplicity, no longer impressed by their responses. As she advances once more, the party chief feels a sudden shiver, realizing other scheme is unfolding. Abruptly, skeletons rise beneath Maria, catching her off guard as the ambush unfolds. Frozen in fear, she does not work to move while her allies shout for her to escape. Panic overwhelms her when she understands she cannot fight undead enemies at all. Gornoff walks ahead, shielding her while Clay unleashes lightning that shatters the attackers. With Tama near, the shock assault falls swiftly, restoring restraint to the party. Tama reassures Maria with a peace grin, stabling her as the risk nears in. Orders are swiftly given, appointing protection and directing spellcraft toward the densest swarm. Together, the party appears aligned and pushes against the advancing skeletons. Following escaping the endless wave, they rest by a campfire, exhausted but safe. Watching the men laugh together, Maria silently reconsiders her opinion before letting Tama sit next to her. Around the campfire, the party relaxes, acknowledging each other's reliability following the hard contest. Toma praises Maria as an excellent ally and her necklace stays silent, proving his sincerity. Embarrassed by the genuine compliment, she fights to maintain her usual calm. Trying to recover, she challenges him lightly, refusing to admit defeat so easily. Though she protests and asks their trustworthiness, his peace response leaves her with fewer uncertainties than before. Maria's necklace responds unexpectedly, exposing her own emotions and leaving her embarrassed following the exchange. Afterward, beneath the night sky, she comes to Tama silently while the campfire burns low. Reflecting on her weakness against skeletons, she chooses to visit a church in case of lingering curses. Within the chapel, a peace sister prays at the altar, the place gripping special meaning for Maria. Toma brought Maria to his usual church so she could be cleansed. The quiet building stood ahead as they walked together. Memories of abrupt undead strikes resurfaced. Her panic throughout contest had nearly destroyed the team's stability. Doubt lingered in her guarded conduct. He realized faith must be earned before she would reveal her former. They stepped inside the church entrances carefully, light pouring within. Maria appeared dressed as a nun, gripping a rod, her expression hinting at other complication. Toma met Sister Sophia within the church following several days apart. She welcomed him warmly. Maria watched carefully, surprised by their familiarity and sensing something unexpected. They introduced themselves and shook hands, polite grins hiding quiet tension. Image the 4th of March. Aya remembered this church from her former, where she first learned about the goddess. Sophia gently dismissed doubt, keeping a peace expression while the atmosphere grew slightly strained. Sophia examined Maria carefully, bending in until their expressions nearly touched. Following a cautious check, she found no sign of any cursed comfort washed over Maria as the church offered purification. Anyway, soon she knelt while priests performed the ritual under soft light. Afterwards, Sophia silently admitted her shock upon learning Maria's name, sensing a deeper connection. She then teased Tama about his supposed distance from women, watching his response. His loud denial only deepened Sophia's doubt, leaving Maria embarrassed next to him. Sophia questioned whether Maria might distract Tama throughout exploration. Her expression slightly flushed yet firm, Tama responded silently, explaining that having a white mage helped the party, despite their certain risks. Maria grew irritated at his relaxed manner while the two continued discussing on a bench. Meeting courage, Sophia abruptly made a daring request that sounded improper at first. Embarrassed, she swiftly corrected herself, clarifying she only wanted him to accompany her to harvest mushrooms. Sophia insisted she could handle creatures alone, questioning why Toma chose Maria rather. Uncertainty flickered across her expression. Following piecing down, she explained the target was an agaric mushroom. Gratitude softened her tone as she accepted his help. Soon they entered a destroyed maze filled with flying beasts. The group touched together to repel the swarm. Throughout the clash, teasing remarks spread among the team, hinting at Toma's weakness around women. As contest continued, tension rose when Maria noticed his distracted gaze, challenging his focus. Throughout the fight, Toma began explaining Sophia's real role while creatures swarmed near. Sophia activated her spellcraft, releasing a strong enhancement that strengthened the whole group. With renewed energy, the team launched a coordinated strike and overcome the flying beasts at once. Following the contest, they praised her support spellcraft as the key to their swift win. While others relaxed, Maria watched with irritation, noticing Toma's guard around her slowly fading. Maria silently resolved to win Toma's focus, refusing to lose him to anyone else. Abruptly, she hurried to his side and grabbed his hand, requesting about his condition following the fight. Sophia watched them carefully, smiling while tension sharpened in her eyes. Feeling the force among them, Toma swiftly changed the topic and pointed ahead. At the dungeon's depths, they eventually discovered the towering agaric mushroom Sophia had been searching for. The group stared at the towering mushroom, stunned by its overwhelming size and crude shape. While the others reacted noisily, Sophia examined it silently, noting it was far too large to carry intact. She explained that the agaric served as an ingredient for a special medicine meant to restrain dangerous impulses. Speaking firmly, she justified the task as part of her sacred duty tied to love and harmony. Ultimately, they agreed to harvest smaller pieces rather of the massive specimen. Sophia selected a mushroom of suitable size and ready to extract it while the others watched uneasily. Despite their awkward responses from the party, she insisted on handling the task herself to avoid more trouble. With determined effort, she pulled the mushroom free, startling everyone with the force of the motion. Following completing their objective, the team returned to the church and received her sincere gratitude. Before parting, Sophia smiled warmly, hinting she would rely on them once more in the future. Maria clenched her fists outside the church, frustrated that she accomplished nothing at all, while Sophia stood out. As she walked away, uncertainty crept in when she compared her abilities to the sisters. Bitterness twisted her mind, turning admiration into harsh judgment toward the party and herself. Resolve replaced delay, and she resolved to claim her place next to Toma no matter the cost. Dark energy surged around her as she unleashed a strong cleansing, signaling a dangerous shift ahead. Creatures chased the party across a narrow bridge. To survive, the chief cuts it while a young woman is still crossing. She falls as the structure falls. The young woman wakes in bed, shaking and drenched in sweat. The nightmare has returned once more. Morning comes at the front gate plaza. Toma waits in the bright sunlight. He strategies a simple outing to meet mushrooms. Sophia arrives in casual clothes with a basket, smiling despite their lingering fear. Sophia rushes ahead in a light dress and nearly falls into Toma. She says sorry shyly, pleased with her outfit. While Maria observes with irritation, two male allies abruptly appear, loudly announcing they will enter as well. Their enthusiasm catches Toma off guard. Sophia clings to him, suggesting she choose his clothes following time. He clumsily decides as the team readies to leave. They walk along the main road, talking about the picnic and her cooking. At the crowded street, the tall warrior shouts that they have reached the end of the line. The tall warrior panics following discovering a long line for his idol's shock performance. Overcome, he fights among entering the event and remaining with the team. Toma chooses to let him attend, while Sophia observes in confusion. Other companion supports them toward a bookstore, calling the warrior an obsessed fan. Within, the warrior abruptly spots a reissued legendary grimoire still in stock, leaving him stunned once more. The warrior shatters down, torn among his idol's performance and a rare grimoire release. Toma lets him go. Sophia silently suspects the abrupt events are too convenient, as if someone planned to separate them near the rest area. She asks for a short stop while the others agree to meet afterward alone. She asks whether the idol and book were deliberate distractions. Loud banging interrupts her mind and tension rises outside the entrance. Within the restroom, Sophia abruptly seals the entrance shut with wooden planks, blocking the exit. Maria appears outside, accusing her of sending the others away. Sophia silently admits she had no better option. Maria declares she set all things up to protect Toma, thinking Sophia is unworthy of him. She storms off, determined to separate them fully. Sophia grits her teeth, refusing to give up. The conflict traces back to the picnic strategy where their allies were deliberately lured away one by one. Sophia locks Maria within the restroom, while Maria suspects the separation was planned for the two staying allies. At the meeting point, Toma spots Maria's absence and assumes she went home feeling unwell. Currently alone with him, Sophia wonders if he feels disappointed about the abrupt shifts. Toma insists she should not be upset since she organized the picnic. In the quiet park, Sophia grins confidently, satisfied that Toma is still by her side. At the picnic seat, Sophia swings open a box of sandwiches and shyly offers them to Toma. She still feeds him, enjoying his embarrassed response. Her teasing becomes bolder, while he clumsily asks her not to joke that way. Following sitting down, she admits she has something serious to discuss. Toma hears carefully as she says it worries their allies. Blushing yet determined, Sophia discloses she noticed the others staring at her chest throughout their last outing together. Sophia says that the two men stared not only at her but at Maria as well. Toma says sorry, troubled by their conduct. She brings up harmful rumors surrounding Maria and worries someone kind like Toma could be dragged into trouble. Gripping his hands, Sophia argues that men who leer and women who exploit them can destroy a group. She insists he deserves more trustworthy allies. Still, if it sounds harsh, from afar, Maria secretly observes them together, her expression darkening. Hidden near, Maria observes anxiously as Sophia waits for Toma's answer, eager to see his response. Toma admits her worries may carry some truth, gently squeezing her hands. However, he firmly declares he has no intention of disbanding the party. He defends their allies, acknowledging their flaws yet praising their loyalty, talent, and effort. Though surprised, Sophia insists she stays essential to the team, while still uncertainty in Maria's place inside it. Toma says that despite their flaws, his allies support one another and have become real friends inside shared contests. He thanks Sophia for worrying about him but insists he can choose his own allies. Sophia says sorry for overstepping while he hurriedly assures her she did nothing at all wrong. Following an awkward pause, they decide to end the picnic and head back. Afterward, in a quiet alley, Sophia walks alone and signals for someone hidden near to come out. In the alley, Maria walks ahead, mocking Sophia for failing to isolate Toma. They face each other directly, both admitting they want him for themselves while claiming it is for his sake. Neither decides to back down, and their grins harden into open hostility. Weapons flash as they strike at the similar time, spellcraft and tools colliding in midair. Amid shattered debris, they continue the fight, each refusing to abandon their claim over Toma. Maria declares that to show herself right, she must defeat her rival and walks ahead with no delay. Sophia silently accepts the challenge, acknowledging that their competition has turned into open hostility. Both step nearer with firm resolve, each convinced she alone will either save or defeat Toma, unwilling to yield. Within the Adventurer pub, the white mage met the party once more, smiling silently while they sat together. She presented a vine-covered flower creature, explaining its stems could be used as medicine. The remedy was intended for elderly followers, and she asked the team for help meeting it. Doubt arose among the allies, sensing she relied on them too swiftly. Despite their uncertainties, their chief chose to accept the task, determined to show the team's strength. The group learned the creature would turn to stone upon defeat, so its vines had to be cut beforehand. Uncertainty deepened as they realized the chosen target was dangerous and poorly suited for a white mage's request. Evidence appeared when the creature's ability dissolved gear, proving the risk was far greater than expected. Maria stepped ahead, arguing that adventurers depended on their gear and should refuse reckless demands. The white mage silently insisted the creature was harmless, maintaining her position despite their tension. The chief warned that no creature could ever be considered fully safe, especially one that drained mana inside its vines. Despite the risks, the white mage argued back confidently, brushing away worries about dissolved gear and exposure. Tension sharpened as she challenged Maria directly, suggesting she step away if fear held her back. Refusing to retreat, Maria advanced into the maze, determined to expression the outcome herself. Deep inside the forest, the vine creature struck swiftly, binding her as the contest spined out of restraint. Bound by thick vines, Maria struggled while urging the others to follow their strategy. Watching from near, the white mage resolved to judge the team's strength for herself. Sensing delay, Maria realized someone might be manipulating the circumstance beneath the scenes. The creature tightened its carry, draining mana as her resistance weakened. At last, the staying allies touched in, preparing spellcraft and weapons to rescue their trapped allies. The group launched their counterattack, freezing the sticky vines while splitting rolls to strike the core. Ice spread across the flower's body, halting its movements as blades and protects closed in. With a decisive blow, the creature shattered into fragments, releasing its captives. Toma caught the white mage as she fell, checking swiftly for injuries while the others regrouped. Comfort settled over the team, though Maria's frustrated glare showed the competition had only grown stronger. Following the contest, the party emerged drenched in sticky fluid, embarrassed but relieved to be alive. The white mage stood soaked yet composed, attracting focus as she brushed the residue from her clothes. Toma swiftly offered his jacket to cover her, trying to restore order while the others looked away. Maria watched with irritation as the white mage stepped nearer, claiming his worry with ease. Smiling softly, the white mage held the borrowed jacket tightly, satisfied that she had secured his focus once more. Maria studied the white mage carefully, realizing her innocent conduct might be deliberate instead than natural. Doubt deepened as she considered that such charm could be practiced ability rather of coincidence. Meanwhile, the others offered spare clothing, trying to ease the awkward aftermath of the contest. With limited options, they shared what stayed, leaving some Alice more exposed than expected. Rising together in borrowed garments, the team regained calm, though Maria's uncertainties about the white mage only intensified. With the vines secured, the party ready to return, though their damaged gear forced them to move carefully. Light-hearted remarks eased the tension, still as they admitted how near the fight had been. On the path back, Toma reorganized their formation. While the white mage remained near at his side, Maria swiftly intervened, refusing to let the young woman draw nearer under flimsy excuses. Despite the teasing and complaints, the team pressed ahead, conscious the maze stayed dangerous. While talking about the benefits of beating rare creatures, the party treated the contest as valuable experience. Apart from the optimism around her, Maria silently admitted she merely did not want to be striked once more. With no alert, movement surged beneath her, and Toma noticed the risk first. Realizing she was exposed, he hurried ahead as a massive shape rose from the floor. A thick tentacle burst upward, striking Maria and sending both of them tumbling across the cavern floor. As Maria was flung away, Toma lunged ahead to catch her, but other rush of vines swept them both away. Surprise spread across the party when they realized still their chief had been dragged into risk. Seconds afterward, the beast swallowed them, sealing the two within its thick, shifting body in the darkness. Toma searched thoughtlessly until light revealed how carefully they were pressed together. Embarrassed, they swiftly separated, following escaping, trying to pretend the awkward contact never happened. Following shattering free, the team realized they had fallen from a great height, scattered beneath the flower's massive body. Facing the creature once more, they noted it had adapted, trapping them separately rather of striking directly. Determined to regroup, Toma insisted they reunite before the beast changed methods once more. An abrupt shiver spread inside the cavern, far stronger than Maria's usual spellcraft. Dark energy meted around Sophia, showing that her enthusiasm over the rescue had awakened unexpected power. Sophia watched Tome carefully, praising his kindness while dark energy swirled around her. Shadows thickened as she confessed her soft conduct had never been with no intention. Prior to him could react, a rush of power struck, compelling Toma back as black wings tore inside the air. Her appearance shifted fully, showing horns, wings, and a sure grin. With peace certainty, Sophia exposed her real identity as a succubus, leaving Toma stunned by the revelation. A succubus discloses her real appear before the young explorer. Dark energy spins outward as he stiffens in surprise. Shame seizes him, and he averts his gaze. She observes his response with quiet satisfaction. Memories surface of their first meeting when he listened to her story with sincere focus. Unlike other men who stared at her body, he treated her differently. He wonders if such restraint is unusual. A subtle grin passes over her expression as she walks nearer, deepening his worry. The succubus blocks his path as he insists they must rescue their allies. Desire flickers in her eyes while he hesitates. She leans near and sets against him. His body stiffens, unable to respond despite his urgency. Pressed down beneath her, he fights as conflicting instincts overwhelm his resolve. Confusion moves across his expression. A teasing grin appears while she examines his frozen state. Abruptly, he makes himself free and retreats, leaving her surprised as distance shatters her carry. The young explorer steadies his breath and recovers restraint of himself. Though shaken by her real appear, he endures the temptation. Turning to her silently, he insists they rescue their allies before anything else. His resolve creates distance among them. Dark energy rushes once more as she declines to yield. Force fills the air, bearing down on him with greater force. Despite her nature, conflicted feelings surface inside her heart. Odd light blooms in her eye, and unseen power meets as her emotions intensify. A rush of light erupts from his body as the charm takes carry. Mind of her flood his thoughts, overpowering his focus, Strength leaves his limbs and he drops to one knee. Realization dawns that her ability has ruined his resistance. She understands the ability well, a power unique to her kind that ensnares men with no fail. Succubi survive by draining vitality, mastering seduction as instinct. Yet memories surface of her rejecting that nature years ago, unwilling to live only by desire. She reflects on her inability to live like other succubi, having refused to harvest energy inside desire. Among strangers, doubt followed her everywhere, and soon she no longer belonged anywhere. Searching for escape, she traveled to the capital and entered a church, hoping faith would shield her from corruption. Still there, hidden impulses surfaced around her, deepening her disappointment. At her lowest instant, someone advanced with a varied path, urging her to survive by spending others rather of being hurt. She devoted herself to charity, spending her abilities to meet support while abandoning hope in men. Then the young explorer appeared, and she led herself to believe he might be varied. Yet still he fell under her charm, proving her fears. Abruptly, power burst from him as he forced the spell away, surprising her. Inside sheer will, he regained restraint, proving his feelings were not ruled by desire alone. With fierce resolve, he declares that he only wanted to protect her from despair. His voice carries stable conviction. He admits he could have dispelled her charm previous, yet chose other path to reach her heart. Shock softens her expression as she understands he never really fell under her restraint. Honesty follows as he confesses his own stirred feelings despite their resisting the spell. Shame rises among them, but clarity takes over uncertainty as they express each other directly. Embarrassed by his blunt honesty, she trembles while he clumsily admits how strongly she affects him. Calm returns as he says that respect and care matter more than impulse. His words leave her uncertain. He clarifies that he never wanted her to suffer, regardless of her nature. Memories of her former bitterness surface along with the emptiness she felt despite their exploiting others. Gradually, a quiet grin appears as she understands he endured her charm and may be someone she can faith. His sincere words echo in her thoughts. Remembering how he valued her feelings above desire, she turns toward him, realizing he is not the flawless hero she imagined. Teardrops meet as she understands he is something far better, someone genuine and kind. Regret surfaces, and she says sorry for compelling her charm on him throughout contest. With renewed resolve, he offers his hand to save their allies, and she accepts. Choosing to fight next to him, a burst of force throws him backward, and dust fills the air as the floor cracks beneath them. Rising swiftly, he feels a rush of mana near and fears their allies may be hurt. Known voices call out from the rubble, assuring him they are fine. Comfort washes over him as he assists her sit up, though their closeness draws knowing looks. Their allies tease them lightly, calling them real allies while he rises speechless under their amused stares. Tension rises as the men argue loudly, blaming him while she anxiously tries to piece them. Accusations fly, yet he swiftly walks among them, urging everyone to discussion rather of fight. Laughter takes over anger as his allies grab him playfully, announcing the matter settled among friends. Watching silently, she examines the team he chose and measures their bond. A composed grin appears on her expression as she asks about his progress, hiding deeper mind beneath peace eyes. Teasing remarks spread inside the team while he laughs clumsily among his allies. From a short distance, she observes silently, measuring the bond they portion. Lowering her gaze, she accepts her defeat. The man who resisted her charm has proven himself varied, and she starts to reconsider her feelings. Tama lay in bed, sweating as fever clouded his mind and weakened his body. The silent room reminded him of returning half-dressed from the dense forest maze the previous day. Sophia had apologized to Goranov and Clay, convinced she brought trouble, though they were not upset. Despite the quest being a success, Maria seemed dissatisfied, which lingered in his thoughts. Recognizing illness could affect anyone, he reached for water and accepted he needed proper rest. Toma used the spellcraft line to inform his group that he had caught a cold and asked about their condition. Replies swiftly arrived, assuring him they were fine and suggesting postponing the day's quest so he could recover. Following sending his response, he lay back, frustrated that only he had fallen ill. Abrupt knock interrupted the quiet room, compelling him to rise and check the entrance. Outside stood Maria, who had come to take care of him. Maria insisted she was not worried, claiming his illness would only slow their profits, then handed him a mask she had ready. When he swayed from dizziness, she swiftly supported him and urged him to rise properly. For a brief instant, he leaned too near, distracted before pulling himself together. She guided him back to bed, determined to examine him carefully. Following settling him down, she glanced around the simple room with quiet curiosity. Maria checked his condition carefully, bending in with no delay to prove he really had a fever. Following verifying his temperature, she readied a cool cloth and gently pressed it against him. Promising to cook a special soup, she abandoned him resting with a mask, covering his expression. While lying in bed, he thanked her but soon asked about Sophia's condition. Hearing other young women mentioned, Maria's mood shifted, and she reacted with abrupt irritation. Maria's irritation flared following he mentioned Sophia, and she declared she would no longer be lenient with him. Rising before his bed, she insisted his condition required serious focus and proper care. With unsettling resolve, she readied to examine him thoroughly. Disregarding his confusion, she forcefully began the inspection while claiming it was strictly medical. Overcome by the intense circumstance, he struggled to endure both his fever and her overwhelming advance. Maria leaned nearer with a stethoscope, smiling as she began checking his heartbeat. Pressing the instrument against his chest, she observed his rising pulse while he struggled to remain peace. Satisfied with the response, she continued the examination, convinced her method was useful. Noticing his heavy sweating, she decided to wipe him down herself, insisting it was proper care. Overstimulated and weakened by fever, Otome eventually lost consciousness in her arms. Maria laughed softly, claiming his condition worsened because he angered her. Despite her daring manner, she hesitated, feeling uneasy about leaving him unconscious. Time passed silently as he slept, and when he awoke, his fever had eased and his body felt lighter. Noticing the ready medicine and water near, he realized someone had carefully tended to him. Across the room, Maria had fallen sleeping next to the bed, exhausted following nursing him inside the night. Otome noticed Maria murmuring in her sleep next to the bed while he watched silently. Following observing her condition, he gently refused to wake her and decided to let her rest. When she stirred and realized he had recovered, she complained about the timing yet listened as he thanked her sincerely. She brushed off his gratitude, claiming she would never take advantage of someone weakened by illness. With lingering shame on both factions, they agreed to end the chaotic day peacefully. Maria admitted she had ready soup and offered it to him while pretending indifference. Though he felt grateful for her care, he silently wished she would treat the party as real allies. Following heading to the kitchen, she keenly reheated the dinner and brought it back with certainty. The bowl contained an odd mixture labeled as a special nutritious recipe from a white mage. Staring at the unusual contents, Otome hesitated, seriously questioning whether it was safe to eat. Maria confidently assured him the soup's nutrition was perfect and encouraged him to try it. Under her expectant gaze, Otome unwillingly lifted the spoon despite his uncertainties about the taste. Unable to refuse her effort, he forced himself to swallow the odd mixture seconds. Afterward, the overwhelming flavor struck him down, leaving him unconscious while Maria checked his condition. The group reaches the beach, enjoying a rare shatter from quests as waves roll before them. Otome proves he has recovered while his allies relax in swimsuits near. Abruptly, commotion draws his focus toward a growing crowd on the sand. Two young women step ahead confidently in striking swimsuits, boastfully presenting themselves to their chief. Surprise moves across the men's expressions. At last, one comes to Otome shyly, waiting for his response as the atmosphere turns tense. Maria rises confidently in her swimsuit, while the two men enthusiastically praise her appearance. Their compliments grow exaggerated, comparing her beauty to fine art as she starts to feel overcome. Leah walks ahead with a daring grin, attracting focus to herself and inviting everyone to admire her effort. The men react intensely, their calm shattering as her display stuns them. Maintaining restraint, she taunts lightly while Otome observes nervously, unsure how to respond to her daring conduct. Leah grins at Otome, claiming she does not thoughts being noticed that way. She leans nearer and points at him, confidently noting his racing heart, while Sophia observes with irritation. Maria abruptly rushes in, clinging to Otome and insisting his recovery comes from her devoted care caught among them. Otome fights as both young women pull him to their factions. Sophia fires back sharply, her irritation clear as competition strengthens around him. Leah understands she went too far and clumsily reminds herself she is part of the team. While Otome nervously asks to be informed following time, overcome by focus from both factions, he admits he cannot still enjoy the circumstance. Afterward, they settle beneath umbrellas as the beach pieces around them. Maria abruptly asks Otome to apply sunscreen, claiming she cannot reach her back. Embarrassed yet obedient, he assists her while Leah observes the scene with mixed feelings. Leigh grins mischievously and encourages Otome to be more thorough while applying sunscreen, watching his response carefully. His hands move carefully, yet the closeness makes her embarrassed despite her teasing tone from beneath. Maria observes the scene, amused that her sister is still monitoring them. Abruptly overcome, Maria responds loudly, embarrassed by how far things have gone. Leah walks in next to her, whispering with a knowing grin as tension thickens among all three. Toma raises his hands and encourages both young women to peace down, requesting them to get along and enjoy the day. Following brief delay, they agreed to a temporary truce so the beach trip will not be destroyed. Soon, the three of them play in the waves and enter a lively volleyball match near. Throughout the game, the ball strikes clumsily, leaving one young woman embarrassed as Tama responds too late. Recovering with shame, she adjusts her stance and readies to continue more carefully. While gripping the volleyball, Maria is abruptly advanced by a stranger who daringly praises her appearance. He invites her to leave her friends and spend time with him rather, but she responds with visible annoyance, noticing the circumstance. Tomoe and the others step in front of her, facing the man directly. Intimidated by their serious expressions, the stranger swiftly turns and moves. With no delay, the two muscular allies charge following him, determined to defend their friend. Maria worries about what might happen if the man had been stronger, while Toma checks on her condition. Smiling lightly, he assures her they would have escaped together if risk really arose. She tests him by suggesting he might abandon her, yet he insists he would never do that. When tension eases, he casually remarks that her three protectors can handle most issues anyway. Just as he relaxes, Maria silently tells him to look beneath, hinting something unexpected comes to. Toma turns and finds Sophia surrounded by several men, their focus fixed on her. He rushes ahead immediately, but she warns that leaving her alone might invite more trouble. Following a tense instant, they regroup, both looking exhausted yet relieved. Soon, their muscular allies return as well, announcing the disturbance handled. As peace settles in, Tuma spots a small figure near and asks who the unexpected child might be. A cheerful, elf child named Dean abruptly appears, clinging shyly to Toma. At the beach, Toma waves silently while Dean introduces herself with bright certainty. Seconds afterward, his expression stiffens as he spots her tight school swimsuit. Realizing something feels out of place in this realm, Sophia comes to swiftly, questioning the outfit while Dean shifts clumsily in the sand. Enthusiasm moves as someone declares it a rare swimsuit brought by a hero, astonishing everyone. Regret follows when Tama reflects on how odd influences continue breaking his fragile isekai existence. Dean rises near to her master, boastfully claiming devotion while observing the others near. Two swimsuit-clad women question which of them might carry his affection, stirring quiet tension across the beach. Uncertainty rises as Dean wonders about his romantic ties, though others silently states they are only friends. With no alert, Dean clings tightly to the bespectacled man, surprising everyone watching. It becomes clear that Clay's spellcraft once dazzled her, causing that abrupt attachment. Dean declares her dream of becoming a splendid magician and chooses she needs a master to support her path. Clay accepts the role, beginning lessons immediately as she marks with bright enthusiasm. Training turns intense when he demonstrates restraint over hurrying water, carrying her along with force. Elemental mastery follows, showing a towering golem and stacks of research proving his dedication to spellcraft. Afterward, Dean examines silently, watching the others at the shore while reflecting on her new journey. Clay reminds his pupil to rest, noting that although training matters, she still prefers playing on the shore. Demonstrating restraint, he appears a dense sphere of water in his palm, showing precise elemental mastery. Toma comes nearer to watch, unaware that the spell's direction abruptly shifts toward him. Eager to imitate the technique, Dean releases her own water sphere with reckless enthusiasm. The blast rushes wildly before being deflected, leaving her embarrassed while the others react in surprise. Toma abruptly protects the women as something flies toward them across the water. Odd flash leaves them embarrassed and struggling in the waves, unsure what just happened. The lost swimsuit is spotted drifting away, prompting Clay and the beastmen to dive following it. Competition erupts among them, each claiming greater speed while splashing fiercely. Before they can decide, Dean launches herself ahead, determined to retrieve it and end the chaos she brought. Dean swims with effort and eventually seizes the drifting swimsuit, lifting it boastfully above the waves. Abruptly, a massive shark rises beneath her, jaws wide as the others stare in horror. Realizing the risk, she stiffens while the current churns violently around her small figure. Toma swiftly organizes the team, ordering support spellcraft and strength to ready a rescue. With Goronov's power beneath him, Toma launches ahead inside the surf, charging straight toward the beast. The shark leaps with jaws wide, but Toma reaches Dean first and pulls her away from its path. Although the rescue succeeds, the beast circles back inside the water, refusing to retreat. Certainty returns as Clay walks ahead, adjusting his glasses while Toma faiths in his strength. Meeting water into a dense sphere, he carefully measures angle and force with precision. A massive torrent erupts, appearing an overwhelming blast that rushes straight toward the charging shark. The torrent strikes real, hurling the shark away in a spinning rush as the sea eventually pieces. Toma checks Dean's safety while she beams boastfully at her master's overwhelming power. From the shore, Maria observes their cooperation, silently admitting their coordination shines throughout risk. Comfort moves as laughter returns and Dean gratefully hands back the recovered swimsuit. As peace settles over the beach, a distant figure appears, signaling that someone unexpected has arrived. Dean shyly asks if she will meet her master once more, and he silently ends the day's training. She brightens upon learning they both reside inside the Holy Empire, deepening her enthusiasm. Following thanking everyone for playing with her, she moves off, promising to train harder following time. The men watch her leave, sure she will grow into a remarkable magician. In the shadows, a hooded figure greets Dean, hinting at a serious matter awaiting her focus. Dean rests on the bed, reflecting that the adventurers seem harmless despite their previous instructions to reason disruption. Facing the hooded figure, she confidently says that under her guidance, still capable men would falter. A cunning grin appears as she asks Clay's role, hinting that he may ultimately become the real source of their downfall. A white mage drifts on the river in a school swimsuit, while two robed magicians observe from the shore, careful of her abrupt existence. Emerging from the water, she comes to them with clear intent. Her expression shows impatience as she nears the distance. With no delay, she settles onto one mage's knees and casually directs their actions. The robed figures stay compliant under her daring conduct. Beneath a tree, the magicians kneel as she asserts dominance, recognizing their pride and weakness. At the adventurer counter, the party appears harmonious, unaware that she currently firmly rules the team. Throughout the party discusses the white mage's influence. While others stay cautious, she appears delighted, treating the circumstance lightly. Focus shifts to Dean, who thinks about training her once more. He identifies her talent and chooses to continue guiding her growth. Since meeting her at the beach, Clay has trained steadily under Dean. The team maintains certainty in their shared progress. With enthusiasm, she looks ahead to the day's lesson, determined to overcome her master. Dean silently readies to resume instruction. Training strengthens near the rocky shore. Dean recognizes her strong spellcraft but notes her restraint still requires refinement. The white mage unleashes a massive water dragon that spins toward Dean. The force of the spell shakes the floor as he braces against the impact. Rising confidently, she reflects on her progress and thinks her strength currently surpasses her master's assumptions. With a stable gaze, she forces him to acknowledge her growth, determined to show her superiority inside action. Dean analyzes the circumstance silently, admitting that shaping spellcraft into a living appear requires advanced restraint. Following the clash ends, he identifies her improved mastery. She accepts the result with satisfaction, ready for the following stage of training. The white mage taunts her master, suggesting he has nothing at all abandoned to teach. Dean responds firmly, reminding her that mastering spellcraft is never simple. Certainty flickers across her expression as she thinks she has surpassed him. Dean observes her growing arrogance with worry, deciding to advance the lesson. He discloses a recently acquired magical tome, announcing his responsibility to keep her discipline in check. She responds with uncertainty, realizing the following stage may not match her assumptions. Leaping onto a rock, she readies a thunder spell. Energy meets around her rod as training resumes with renewed intensity. Lightning falls across the shoreline as the white mage releases a storm of thunder. Bolts strike repeatedly, compelling Dean to endure the overwhelming display of power. While he fights to stay stable, she mocks the simplicity of his teachings and treats the advanced spell as effortless. Rain pours as Dean drops to one knee, pressured by her relentless assault. She says her strength has surpassed anything he imagined. Rising near beneath him, she belittles his condition and calls him insignificant compared to her talent. As he stays kneeling, she declares that shattering his spirit will end the team's hopes completely. Following the storm subsides, the white mage admits she still has room to grow. Dean rises silently and encourages her to reach greater heights. A sure grin returns to her expression as she recognizes that her master has not been ruined. Afterward at the adventurer, a message arrives stating she will be away for several days to train. The group learns she intends to reforge herself inside more discipline. Without worried, the team chooses to continue taking modest quests, believing that her growing firepower will strengthen them when she returns. Toma spots the white mage peeking from beneath a doorway as she calls out to him with cheerful energy. She rushes ahead and offers to take over her master's role, smiling brightly while checking his response. Following reviewing a request, she asks whether the task really requires her level of ability. Comparing others' failed tries, searching for approval, she crouches before a composed woman who silently praises her unique advance. With a quiet grin, the woman chooses to handle matters herself, planning to make Toma experience deep despair. Toma asks the white mage's abrupt visit, noticing her unusual focus on him rather of Clay. She adjusts her hat and silently says she is present to disrupt the party, watching his response with interest. The others remind Toma of her praised talent while she clings to him and insists on entering their strategies. Unwillingly, he decides to help, reasoning that she is still young despite her certainty. With enthusiasm, she announces a simple maze outing for the day, and the party readies to support her, gaining useful experience. A few days afterward, Dean trains alone, gripping his rod as smoke rises around him. His expression shows fierce resolve inside intense practice. He reflects on his arrogance and identifies how Clay's talent exposed his flaws. By the end, he attains mastery over a new appear of spellcraft. Certainty returns as he thinks this power will let him to rise boastfully before his student. Once more, reuniting with the party, he offers support and they acknowledge both his effort and progress. With humility, he says sorry for former conduct, resolved to move ahead together as a stronger mentor and ally. Dean returns to the team, gripping his rod firmly. Clay and the others greet him, while the white mage observes carefully. She taunts him by remembering his previous weakness, but he rises composed before the party and asks about their progress. With stable certainty, he says that his training goes on and that he only returned briefly to regain his footing. The white mage cheerfully declares she has been giving her best under his guidance, searching for his approval. Clay and the others acknowledge her growth, recognizing her as a dependable magician shaped by dedicated training. Dean abruptly falters, his expression tightening as strain seizes him. Worry moves inside the team as they see something is wrong. Despite his condition, he encourages the party to continue with no him. His voice stays stable, though his body trembles. A dark presence rises as his certainty wavers from the side. The white mage observes silently. Adjusting her hat with a knowing grin, she reflects that with her existence, the party would fall from a lack of power and thinks about finishing her master fully. When tension builds, she wonders whether targeting his allies will eventually corner him and show her dominance. In a shattered forest clearing, Dean unleashes repeated blasts of spellcraft, splitting trees and carving the floor. Sweat drips as he understands his strength still falls below his master's standards. Inside the fading smoke, the white mage comes to silently. Her composed posture contrasts with the destruction, and Dean tenses under her quiet scrutiny. She examines him from beneath, noting his exhaustion. Uncertainty creeps into his mind as he feels her worry. Stepping nearer, she asks his growth. The force of her existence exposes his insecurity. At last, she challenges him directly, turning the clearing into a battlefield once more. A crushing rush of spellcraft fills the clearing, compelling Dean to his knees. Sweat pours down his expression as he understands the overwhelming difference in power. Rising before him, the white mage grins with absolute certainty. Her presence radiates restraint, proving she exists on a fully varied level. Chains of spellcraft bind him as she leans him down effortlessly. Struggle shows across his expression while she maintains dominance with no delay. With a final rush, she overwhelms his resistance, his strength falters, and the gap among them becomes certain. Following the clash ends, she crouches and pulls him into a soft embrace. Comfort takes over tension, and his hardened expression softens in her arms. Cradling him gently, the white mage speaks with peace authority. Dean, still shaken, hears as she suggests a new role for him at her side. Certainty fills her expression while she lays out simple conditions. His pride, already fractured from defeat, wavers under her stable restraint. Cheerfully, she offers to teach him spellcraft if he accepts becoming her student. The reversal of their positions disturbs him deeply, lowering his head. Dean eventually yields. Acceptance takes over resistance as he submits to her guidance. A triumphant grin moves across her expression. Satisfaction gleams in her eyes, knowing his will has eventually ruined. Stilling settles as three adventurers return to the adventure, worry lingering in their walks. Dean stays absent, and silence answers their worries. Within, they prove he has not responded to any messages. Worry moves among them as days with no contact begin to feel unnatural. Asks arise about his abrupt disappearance. Anxiety becomes especially for Sophia, who admits she does not know his whereabouts. The adventurer entrances open sharply as Sophia walks ahead with determination. Focus shifts to her when she hints that his absence may not be accidental. Gravely, she discloses a connection to her forgotten homeland. Doubt appears that Dean's circumstance is tied to secrets from other realm. Within the adventurer, Sophia admits Dean contacted her privately. The revelation disturbs the others and shifts their doubts. Realization moves as they consider that other person may portion Sophia's origin. Worry takes over confusion. She voices a darker thought: someone might be trying to shatter their group apart. The possibility hangs heavily in the room. Meanwhile, the white mage waits silently, suggesting cautious intent beneath recent events. Clay leans Sophia for answers. Uncertainty flickers across her expression, hinting that Dean's disappearance is part of a larger scheme. Sophia discloses that she and other portion the similar mentor. Dean's previous secrecy currently gains new meaning, linking former lessons to present turmoil. A looming figure emerges in their mind, described as the mastermind beneath group falls. The name alone proposes deliberate manipulation. Surprise grips the team as they grasp the scale of the scheme. Anger takes over uncertainty and resolve hardens. Sophia readies herself, determined to shield the one involved, still if it means withholding the truth. Though she declines to expose details, her stance stays firm. Tension fills the room as faith strains under hidden loyalties. Toma speaks firmly, acknowledging Sophia's conflict while pointing out that she sees him as a benefactor. His stable tone eases some of the tension. The team pieces together the circumstance, concluding that Toma was likely the real target. Sophia's soft nature becomes part of their reasoning. Unexpectedly, humor shatters the strain as one ally responds with dramatic enthusiasm. Laughter contrasts sharply with the previous doubt. Focus shifts back to Clay's condition and what should be done following. Resolve takes over confusion as they ready to act. The white mage observes with playful certainty. Despite the seriousness, a light mood lingers among them. Toma examines his device in irritation, unable to contact either Dean or Clay. The silence deepens his worry about their abrupt disappearance. Sophia reflects on Clay's odd conduct following training with the white mage. Doubt becomes that he may be influenced by her spellcraft. Resolve takes over uncertainty as Toma declares he will not abandon his friend. His resolve energizes the others. Bakura decides enthusiastically, proposing they go directly to Clay. Certainty rushes among them. However, their momentum falters when asked where Clay actually is. Sophia lowers her gaze, admitting she has no information. Sophia offers to investigate Clay's whereabouts, raising her hand with forced calm. Seconds afterward, she abruptly excuses herself and leaves the adventurer hall. Outside, she walks swiftly inside the street. Other figure calls out and comes to stop her. Faced directly, Sophia is accused of sharing the similar master as the suspected manipulator. The claim catches her off guard. She admits the connection, but insists her loyalty lies meanwhile. Her feelings for Toma outweigh former ties. The confrontation sharpens as she is questioned about her previous advice. Tension rises among faith and doubt. Accusations strike hard as Sophia is told she has stopped pursuing her targets. Surprise shows across her expression while she denies the claim. The tension strengthens when her sincerity is questioned directly. Fear and uncertainty collide in her widened eyes. Above the street, the white mage appears silently on her broom. Both young women stare upward in disbelief at the abrupt arrival. Floating with casual certainty, the white mage mocks Sophia's delay and proposes she move on to other victim. Her tone carries sudden provocation. Sophia steadies herself and declines firmly. Resolve takes over uncertainty as she rejects abandoning her chosen path. Sophia walks ahead with renewed resolve, announcing she will reassess her path and refuse to be manipulated any longer. Her voice carries firm conviction. The white mage asks her certainty while memories of risk and former contests surface. Uncertainty flickers, but Sophia stays rising. Clenching her fist, she insists the party will fall by her own hands. Pride fuels her defiance despite the taunting laughter she receives. In a swift motion, the white mage leaps and grabs her, mocking her strength and status. The gap among them becomes painfully clear. Humiliation follows as sudden insults strike at Sophia's pride. Anger burns in her eyes while the confrontation escalates. With a smug grin, the white mage discloses Clay's location, then vanishes following a mocking farewell. Sophia trembles with anger at the taunt. Abandoned alone in the street, she makes a grin and says the disappearance does not trouble her. Pride masks the sting of competition. However, her calm cracks when questioned. Irritation weakens into her voice. Unwillingly, she admits searching for help would wound her pride. The thought disturbs her more than the insult. Determined to show herself, Sophia declares she will crush the party by her own strength. At last, she extends her hand, signaling uneasy cooperation. They clasp hands unwillingly, appearing a temporary alliance to rescue Clay and face the scheming white mage together. A wooden sign says Dean's castle lies 200 meters ahead. Toma and his group stare at it, uneasy by the crude, attracting an odd message. Doubt moves as they question the direction. The forest path feels like a setup, and uncertainty rises about who might be waiting ahead, choosing caution. Toma orders Gorn to lead. The team advances slowly, watchful to any hidden menace. Bushes shake as Gorn searches the area. Confusion becomes over why their targets would hide in such a forest. A figure abruptly drops from above. Surprise stiffens the party as they realize the trap has begun. Sophia nervously tries to cover the previous mistake while Maria stays composed. Worry lingers, but nothing at all shifts their circumstance. Toma asks the excuse as they continue along the forest path. Gorn reflects that Sophia still behaves immaturely. The team keeps moving despite the long walk. Abruptly, Toma feels risk and shouts the alert. Gorn responds instantly as a massive wooden log swings toward him from the side. More logs sweep across the path in rapid succession. Toma examines their timing and directs the party to dodge carefully. With no alert, a giant boulder falls down ahead. Surprise moves as they realize the traps were only the beginning. Toma understands the forest itself is hostile and calls for retreat. Irritation moves as they understand the enemy never intended them to arrive safely. Before they can withdraw, a massive tree rises from the trees. Gorn turns to expression it, recognizing a new menace blocking their path. Toma swiftly shifts to command. He orders Sophia to strengthen them and tells Maria to ready recovery as rain falls around them. Gorn charges ahead under Toma's direction. Steel and strength collide against hardened bark as they push inside the creature's defense. At last, the treant falls exhausted. The party crouches on the floor, relieved to have survived the ambush. Sophia abruptly calls for focus, pointing ahead with urgency. Gorn stiffens as he follows her gaze. Beyond the trees rises a massive step structure rising into the sky. Hooded figures carry heavy stone blocks up its wide staircase, silently working. Confusion deepens as the party understands the laborers are people under Dean's influence. The scale of the building feels unnatural inside the forest. Toma spots a grand altar at the summit and directs everyone's focus toward it. Doubt sharpens into certainty as they connect the scene. At the top, Dean appears silently, watching their arrival. A sure grin moves across her expression as she recognizes they survived her test. Within the structure, the party demands their mage back. Dean lounges silently while a hooded man serves her tea with no delay. Surprise moves as the man discloses himself to be Clay. The team stares, unable to understand why he rises next to her. Tension rises, but Clay says sorry and states he will not return. His words fall heavily across the open space. Sophia and Maria struggle to accept that someone of Clay's ability would stay as a servant by choice. Dean boastfully says his loyalty. Clay silently insists he is fine, requesting them to leave as the distance among both factions widens. Toma fiercely denies the accusation and declines to abandon Clay. Gorn rises firm next to him, anger clear in his stance. Together, the party declares their oath and calls for Clay to return. Their unity echoes inside the stone hall. Clay lowers his gaze, shaken by their words yet unable to answer immediately. Disregarding Dean's mockery, Toma rushes up the stairs toward the altar. Hooded servants abruptly block his path. He orders them away, insisting they only want their friend back. The servants near ranks determined to protect Dean from any advance. Hooded servants surround Toma on the walks and declare that Clay no longer belongs to him. Their voices echo as they near in. Toma and Gorn ready for a prolonged fight, realizing they cannot advance with no shattering inside every guard. Before violence erupts, Sophia and Maria step ahead, requesting to handle the circumstance themselves. With sure grins, they unleash their charm, trying to sway the servants and open a path to Clay. The robed followers burst into laughter. Unmoved by the mockery fills the hall as the effort does not work fully. Maria and Sophia intensify their charm, pushing their spellcraft more. Hearts flood the hall as the servants fall under the abrupt wave of influence. The robed followers sway together, fully captivated. Toma and Gorn watch in stunned silence as the guards lower their defenses. Seizing the instant, Toma encourages Gorn to focus on rescuing Clay. The path up the stairs currently lies open. Certainty returns to the two women as they acknowledge their success. Pride shows in their expressions. From above, Dean clicks her tongue in irritation. Though annoyed, she notes that Clay's previous companion stays an obstacle she cannot ignore. Dean walks ahead, dismisses her servants, and readies to face Toma's group personally, sure in her overwhelming power. The white mage walks ahead confidently while the warrior and the horned elder rise beneath her. Resolve shows in her expression as she takes restraint of the circumstance. With no alert, crushing gravity makes the warrior to the floor. His body stiffens under the abrupt weight, unable to resist the spell. Dark force moves across the area. She silently maintains the spellcraft, watching him struggle to move. Strain reaches still the elder, who feels the overwhelming force pressing down. Both realize her power surpasses assumptions. When intruders appear, they are swiftly deemed insignificant. Certainty surrounds the white mage as the outcome becomes certain. Under crushing gravity, the small young woman and her companion are forced to the floor. The white mage rises near, insisting that Clay must defeat her before taking the young woman home. Both captives struggle against the force. Anger rises as they endure humiliation, yet neither can lift their bodies. With a relaxed grin, the mage mocks Clay's weakness. She treats the circumstance lightly, convinced no one there can oppose her. Her teasing goes on, targeting his pride. Irritation moves across the men's expressions as tension builds. Despite the immense force, Clay starts to move. Surprise appears on her expression when she understands he is resisting her gravity. Memories surface of Clay's lonely childhood. Feared by villagers for his odd spellcraft, he walked empty streets with no place to belong. Despite their isolation, he trained with no rest over time. His efforts shaped him into a strong mage who never avoided hardship. Back in the present, the white mage increases the gravity once more. Clay's body sinks deeper as force makes him toward the floor. Still while restrained, his allies defend his talent and growth. Their belief clashes with her cold dismissal. Inside pain and uncertainty, Clay shouts with determination. Resolve burns in him as he declines to let her define his worth. The horned elder grins and signals his support for Clay beneath him. The cloaked mage and the white mage expression each other as tension lingers in the air. A brief recollection shows of their chaotic companionship. Laughter, competition, and abrupt shocks once filled their days together. Returning to the present, the white mage readies. Other spell, sure that Clay will not yield. Her posture stays stable as she raises her rod. Before she can act, the cloaked mage walks ahead. He announces his decision while Clay lies exhausted beneath him. Bending on his ally, Clay manages to rise. The white mage observes in confusion as their bond shows stronger than her assumptions. The white mage insists the others only want Clay back because they lack strength. She says that throughout his absence, they were satisfied under her power. From across the hall, the cloaked mage silently addresses her. He admits his limits but declines to let her belittle Clay or their bond. Hearing his words, she falters. Clay leans weakly against his ally yet stays supported by unshaken faith. Surprise moves across her expression as she understands his resolve was never ruined. Uncertainty takes over her previous certainty. With quiet certainty, he discloses his patience came from training. Her irritation rises as restraint weakens from her grasp. The white mage declares that leaving means the end of training. Her tone is sudden, yet uncertainty flickers across her expression. The cloaked mage admits his foolish pride. He states that he feared being inferior and avoided facing his friends honestly. Casting away delay, he discloses his real resolve. Acceptance takes over envy as he chooses to improve alongside them. Soon following, the team reunites on the walks. Comfort moves among them as he says sorry and returns. Watching from near, the white mage clenches her fist. Irritation rises inside her. Realizing the party will not fall so easily, the white mage declines to back down and declares she will fight seriously. Energy meets around her as she readies to show her dominance. Water spellcraft rushes ahead, appearing a massive dragon aimed at Dean. Certainty fills her expression as the spell descends. Dean responds instantly, raising an ice shield to intercept the strike. The collision shakes the area, yet he stays rising beneath the barrier. She insists no defense can stop her power force builds. As he strains to endure the impact, splitting the torrent into twin streams, she drives the assault harder. Still so, Dean carries his floor despite the crushing force. The white mage shouts in anger, blaming humans for all things. Dean expressions, the roaring water dragon while questioning her abrupt hostility. Realizing brute defense is insufficient, he remembers knowledge learned from other realm. A layered ice barrier appears around him shaped like a honeycomb. The strike falls against the structure, yet it carries surprise appears on her expression when she sees her spell stopped. Refusing to yield, she multiplies the dragon into several heads. Still so, the reinforced shield withstands the assault. At that instant, Clay and the horned elder charge ahead. Their combined strike cuts inside the water beast, turning defense into counterattack. The horned elder encourages Clay to press the strike, while the shield carries the raging water. Certainty returns to their side as they ready to strike together. Clay declares that unity gives them strength. Beneath him, the healer raises her rod, ready to mend any wounds. Inside the honeycomb barrier, their coordinated assault shatters the water dragon. The impact echoes as the spell falls. Seeing their cooperation, the white mage admits she cannot match Dean alone. Uncertainty starts to replace her previous arrogance. Dean states firmly that his strength comes from allies who rise next to him. Realization dawns on her as she understands what she lacks. The staying water dragons weaken as their appear starts to fall. Dean spots the shift while the white mage stares in disbelief. Anger rises inside her as she says her strength comes from someone who restored her power. Still, so uncertainty moves across her expression. Dean admits he cannot defeat her alone, yet he declines to force submission. His peace resolve disturbs her more. She insists she was never alone from the beginning, trying to stable herself. Fear, however, starts to surface, rising in the pooled water of her shattered spell. She becomes vulnerable. Dean channels electricity inside the surface, turning her own spellcraft against her. Electric current rushes inside the water, striking her body. Overcome by the surprise, she falls as the contest ends decisively. A spirit was born from human desire inside a small temple. Worshippers prayed earnestly, unable to see her existence as she watched over them. She answered their wishes by bringing heavy rainfall. Water poured down upon the land, fulfilling their hopes, though she stayed only an unseen object of worship. Joy spread swiftly among the villagers. As parties followed, devotion increased and her power grew stronger with each new believer. Years passed while she guarded the region. Smiling expressions pleased her, and faith sustained her existence. Gradually, followers decreased day by day. Prayers became fewer, and her strength weakened, leaving her uneasy and vulnerable. Villagers stormed the temple in anger, faith turned into resentment, and they questioned the spirit's worth as their hardships continued. Harsh demands echoed inside the shrine. They ordered rain and miracles, yet her fading strength could no longer answer them. Fear filled her as desperate wishes piled up. Spirits weakened when belief declined, and she lacked the power to resist the growing hostility. Accusations followed, calling her useless and small. Uncertainty spread among the crowd, replacing devotion with bitterness. Violence erupted within the temple as objects shattered around her. The fragile spirit trembled, overcome by the fall of faith. When the shrine was destroyed, the spirit felt her appear beginning to scatter. Villagers dismantled the temple and abandoned the forest, abandoning her fully. Overcome with grief, she accepted that with no faith she could not continue. Teardrops fell as her existence faded like mist in the air. At instant, a young woman arrived beneath an umbrella. Unlike the others, she looked directly at the trembling spirit and advanced silently. Surprise crossed the spirit's expression when the stranger spoke to her. No human had ever acknowledged her existence before. Realization slowly dawned. For the first time, someone could really see her, and that encounter halted her quiet disappearance. The odd young woman revealed that the spirit could become a weapon. With a simple gesture, she demonstrated a power that twisted humans into obedient beasts. Seconds afterward, the raging villagers changed into subdued beasts. They crouched silently while the young woman stood peace beneath her umbrella. The spirit watched in surprise as the men lost their will. The young woman explained that protection alone would never secure lasting devotion. Rather of granting wishes, she urged restraint. Beasts offered no faith, only submission. Inside domination, praise would follow naturally. Power would no longer depend on fragile belief but on mastery over those who once scorned her. The mysterious young woman assured the spirit that she would teach her a new path. Quietly, she introduced the methods needed to gain restraint. Spending a charm, the spirit obtained a tool that led humans to see her. Following those instructions, her followers swiftly increased. She focused on mages, whose understanding of spiritual makes strengthened her more. Stability returned, and her temple no longer faced destruction. Still so, she felt worry while watching humans suffer when their parties fell apart. Their pain stirred something unexpected inside her. Odd, disturbing thoughts surfaced. Perhaps she desired to witness those emotions, and that realization abandoned her shaken. Several robed followers knelt before the spirit, pleading for forgiveness. 3 adventurers stood near, watching the odd scene with caution. The young man explained they had only come for clay, not conflict. His allies stayed watchful as they observed the kneeling figures. The spirit questioned their existence while the followers crowded beneath her. Tension grew as the bespectacled man stepped ahead. He stated that he had something important to say. She responded coldly, urging them to leave at once. Prior to him could finish, a heavy impact struck near. The abrupt noise made her flinch, suspecting they intended to release their anger on her. The bespectacled mage stepped ahead and expressed gratitude to the spirit. Peace certainty replaced the previous tension. He admitted that her guidance led him to reach greater heights. With composed sincerity, he asked her to continue teaching him spellcraft. Confusion spread across her expression as she demanded an explanation. She revealed that she had wished for their group to fall. The mage acknowledged this but argued that weakness had been the real reason. If improvement was possible, staying powerless would make no sense. The previous followers declared that she never left them and helped them grow stronger. Hearing their praise, the spirit stood speechless. Teardrops filled the spirit's eyes as her followers declared their loyalty. They promised to stay by her side regardless of what the future held. Seeing them rise firm, she realized their faith had not vanished. If it had, her power would have already faded. Confusion overtook her mind. She questioned why belief endured still with no force or domination. The bespectacled mage gently reassured her, though she had done harsh things, that alone could not erase all things she meant to them. Still, the adventurers accepted the circumstance with no judgment. Surrounded by stable support, the spirits struggled to comprehend this unexpected forgiveness. The bespectacled mage silently accepted the circumstance, saying it was merely how things were. The others agreed, treating the outcome as natural. Supporters cheered beneath him, requesting her to support them from currently on. Their faith felt stable instead than forced, touched by their sincerity. She admitted she could no longer see humans as mere beasts. Gratitude replaced the need for restraint. Although she apologized to her previous mentor, she chose her own path. The adventurers welcomed her decision with no delay. Under a bright rainbow, she smiled confidently. Surrounded by allies rather of subjects, she embraced a future built on willing faith. A small bird watched the distant temple from a branch. Its sudden eyes reflected the structure, as if observing events tied to it. Within a quiet room, the umbrella young woman reviewed the outcome, learning that still Dean had chosen his own path. Seated before shadowed figures, she considered her following target. With peace intent, she began planning a new temptation to test other soul. The group reaches an onsen hotel following Dean, proposes it as an apology. The men admire the open-air bath, thinking it will be a simple chance to relax soon. The women arrive in yukata and reveal the bath is mixed. Shock moves as the meaning sinks in. Dean rushes ahead keenly. The others follow with delay, unsure how to handle the circumstance. Sophia says mixed baths are normal in her previous realm and demands proper conduct. Shame still lingers among the team. Together, they enter the open-air onsen, forced to accept the awkward reality. Before entering the bath, everyone washes carefully as instructed. Buckets of warm water pour over their heads while Sophia silently demonstrates proper etiquette. Shame becomes when glances linger too long. One of the young women responds sharply, compelling the men to look away and regain calm. Dean comes to her master with a bucket, offering to scrub his back. He declines, trying to keep distance, but she ignores the tension and comes nearer. Abruptly, she unleashes strong water spellcraft to help with cleansing. A massive rush falls down, far beyond normal washing. The blast overwhelms him, nearly drowning the poor man. Dean calls it training, while he fights to survive the ordeal. Sophia walks in firmly when Dean's actions grow excessive, reminding her not to disrupt the bathing ritual. Dean pauses, remembering that they came to relax. Steam drifts across the open-air bath as the team eventually settles into the water. Tension disappears while warmth eases their bodies. Peace expressions replace previous shame. The soothing heat lets them to enjoy the instant with no chaos. When they float silently, discussion turns to travel and time spent away from home. The bath becomes a rare pause in their journey. Sophia glances toward the lead adventurer with a soft grin, her feelings deepening in the quiet comfort of the onsen. Heat surrounds them as the lead adventurer and Sophia exchange shy glances. The small companion observes with visible irritation. Conversation drifts toward the hotel's reputation and the spring's sacred origin. Praise fills the air while everyone relaxes deeper into the bath. Sophia stretches lazily, explaining the water's benefits. Still with no thinking the legends, the soothing warmth speaks for itself. The women laugh together, their closeness clear. Near, the small companion floats toward the lead adventurer with a serious look. She abruptly calls out to him, shattering the peace mood. The peaceful atmosphere shifts as focus turns to her blunt remark. The small companion fixes the lead adventurer with a sudden grin and brings up a certain person. Her tone shifts from playful to serious, catching him off guard. She silently proposes that someone has been creating group crushers around him. The implication disturbs him as he starts to understand her meaning. While the other young woman laughs near, she asks whether he is bothered by constantly being targeted. Uncertainty starts to replace the previous peace. He asks her directly, sensing there is more beneath her certainty. The atmosphere tightens. At last, she discloses she was ordered to destroy his group. Surprise stiffens him in place. A dark vision appears in his thoughts, showing a mysterious woman watching him from afar. The image proposes someone strong is observing his every move back in the bath. He asks why this information was revealed. She avoids explaining more and says she does not know the reason. He leans her, wondering if the Watcher is actually his supposed savior. Doubt becomes among them. Embarrassed, she turns away and denies all things, yet her softened expression discloses mixed feelings. Regaining calm, she warns him that his group may fall once more. With a firm gesture, she encourages him to become stronger than ever. The lead adventurer clenches his fist beneath the moonlight, assuring himself that he will not repeat former mistakes. Resolve takes over his previous surprise. Meanwhile, a shadowed woman grins in silence, predicting his despair while watching events unfold from afar. Back in the bath, discussion shifts to hidden connections and suspicious knowledge. Confusion moves, yet the peaceful setting stays unchanged. Seconds afterward, warmth and closeness distract several allies, creating a brief illusion of paradise inside the steam. Abruptly, a loud splash shatters the peace as two allies are knocked ahead. The peaceful bath descends into chaos once more. The small companion scolds the overheated men, questioning how they could fall so easily. Water rushes as their bodies drift helplessly in the bath. With a flat expression, she announces they fainted from heat and drags them away to rest. Peace swiftly returns to the pool, and awkward silence appears when the staying allies glance at one another. The lead adventurer rises alone, unsure where to look. Sophia walks nearer, explaining the spring's effects while checking on him. Sparkling drops cling to her as she examines his response. Other companion cheers confidently, yet the intensity overwhelms him. Embarrassed beyond patience, he chooses to retreat from the bath. Soft footsteps echo across the stone floor as someone comes to the bath. Sophia spots first, sensing an existence beneath them. A tall woman rises at the edge of the pool, her silhouette piece, and sure, the team stiffens as they recognize her figure. She greets Sophia and Maria casually as if meeting old friends. The lead adventurer stares, unable to hide his surprise. Prior to him can finish speaking, she grins beneath her dark hair and remarks that it has been a while. Worry moves inside the steam. Stepping ahead daringly, she calls him by name. Her abrupt appearance proves that the real mastermind has eventually revealed herself. Within a quiet lecture hall, a lone student examines until a cheerful young woman comes to and asks to sit next to him. Shock shows across his expression as she thanks him and settles into the seat, her energy overwhelming his peace routine. Noticing the game on his phone, she leans nearer with interest. Realizing they both play the similar title sparks an instant connection. Soon following, she introduces herself as Ieyasu Kitazono with sure warmth. He responds clumsily, still adjusting to her pace. Afterward, in other realm, she rises before his group and daringly says familiarity. Her existence disturbs the team. Toma stiffens when Ieyasu abruptly appears before him in the other realm. Her known grin contrasts sharply with his panic. He had fallen deeply for her, only to be cast away when others pursued her rather. Betrayal followed, and his existence ended in despair. Currently, she rises in this new realm, radiating existence that feels varied and overwhelming. He fights to look away, confusion tightening his chest. Instinct warns him that something about her has changed. Fear mixes with an unexplainable pull toward her. Meeting himself, he demands answers while trying to keep distance, sensing risk beneath her peace expression. Toma fights to keep his calm as Ieyasu rises before him with no delay. His gaze wavers, unsure where to rest. Dark energy starts to swirl around her body, rising like a living shadow. In response, she silently gestures as if nothing at all is unusual. Seconds afterward, black fabric appears around her figure, wrapping into a showing outfit shaped by spellcraft. She examines his response with quiet curiosity. Doubt strikes him as he feels unfamiliar power beneath her grin. The atmosphere becomes tense under her stable stare. Abruptly, his allies hurry ahead in concern, startled by the intimate tension and the odd spellcraft unfolding before them. In the bathhouse, Ieyasu reminds Toma they once attended the similar school. Steam drifts as he tenses at the recollection. Shame surfaces when he reflects on being deceived in the former one companion overhears, confused by the mention of home. Quietly, Ieyasu discloses that the young woman he encountered here were connected to her. The statement leaves him stunned. Stepping nearer inside the water, she proves all things was intentional. His allies stare, struggling to understand it. Realization dawns as he demands the truth about her scheme. Ieyasu admits responsibility, deepening his worry. In the bath, Ieyasu casually adopts the title of Group Crusher, amused by the meaning beneath it. Tama observes her carefully, sensing provocation. She says her actions are mercy for others. Uncertainty fills his expression as he asks her reasoning. Explaining more, she insists she rescued troubled young women and trained them to survive in this realm. The justification does not work to ease his doubt. Her tone sharpens as she mocks shallow ideas of love and friendship. A darker intensity surfaces beneath her grin. Moving nearer in the water, she invites him next to her. Toma hesitates, demanding answers about what happened following his death. In the quiet bath, Ieyasu asks whether Toma still carries resentment toward her. The question lingers heavily among them. Following a brief silence, he gently denies ever hating her. Moonlight and steam soften his expression. Turning toward her, he says they have only just reunited and expresses hope they might become friends this time. Asu hears, caught off guard. She reminds him she returned with a purpose, watching his response carefully. He recognizes it with no delay, with firm resolve. She discloses her influence has spread widely, yet he silently admits he would still accept her, despite their all things. Toma proposes they settle all things inside honest conversation. His tone stays stable, hoping reason can bridge the distance among them. Azu abruptly bursts into laughter, bending nearer in the water. The intensity of her response leaves him startled and unsure. Regaining calm, she asks his willingness to stay by her side despite their all things. In that instant, her hand rests lightly against his chest as she calls him too kind. Heat rises to his expression while she grins with quiet delight. Looking at him with softened eyes, she appears deeply stirred by the way he goes on to accept her. Aizu's enthusiasm twists into something darker as a monstrous existence rises beneath her. The creature's grin looms over the bath, amplifying the menace in the air. Toma's expression tightens in concern while his allies tremble near. Fear moves swiftly inside the steamy chamber. With cold intensity, Aizu asks whether he understands how much he has been shaped by suffering. Her gaze sharpens. She declares her goal to shatter his faith in love and friendship. In response, he insists his kindness is genuine, not weakness. Silence follows as he challenges her resolve. Aizu turns slightly, her grin lingering as tension thickens around them. Toma firmly declares that real love and lasting friendship still exist. His hands rise in quiet resolve as he rejects her try to sway him. Aizu nears her eyes briefly, calling his belief innocent. Turning away, she warns that her pursuit will not end until he falls. He shouts that no matter who rises against him, he will never surrender. Resolve takes over the fear in his voice. As she walks off, he vows to become her friend in this realm. With no looking back, she vows to shatter him rather. Their allies hurry ahead in worry, yet one softly admits that Toma once saved her. Aizu's expression hardens as she declares that men cannot be faithed. Her words carry sudden conviction, unsettling everyone present. One companion hesitates yet admits she may rise as both servant and enemy. Aizu accepts this silently, unbothered by the contradiction. Other young woman falters under the force while Aizu observes from a distance. The tension moves inside the bathhouse. She reminds them not to place faith in men, asserting restraint over the circumstance. Uncertainty and irritation ripple among the others. With dark energy swirling at her fingertips, Aizu announces her decision to personally test Toma. The challenge is set with no delay. Aizu swings, open a dark portal and waves lightly, announcing her departure for currently. Her grin lingers as the swirling void nears beneath her. Silence settles over the bath as Toma stares at the empty space she abandoned. His allies rise next to him, tense and uncertain. Abruptly, one young woman walks ahead with fierce resolve, announcing she will protect him no matter what. Other swiftly insists that she will be the one to expression Aizu's challenge. Resolve flares among them despite the awkward setting. When the tension shatters, Toma exhales in comfort, only to realize the competition around him has grown still stronger. Toma panics in the bathhouse, worried he has brought other misunderstanding, embarrassed and sweating. Afterward, the building rests silently under the night sky. Reflecting on the chaos, he renews his vow to resist group crushers and persist in reaching Aizu someday. Following leaving the hot springs, Soma sat at the seat tennis court, reflecting on recent events while rallying with his two friends. They questioned him about the young woman he once loved and the party crushers connected to her, pressing him for answers. The game escalated as both friends striked fiercely, smashing the ball with intensity. Soma admitted that being targeted was causing them trouble, yet he resolved to expression each enemy alone. Abrupt strike hit him, and one friend seized his collar, reminding him that his fights were shared. Soma smiled weakly while his friend gripped his collar, reminded that he was the only mage yet still their chief. Soon, both men declared they might be the following targets, each imagining dramatic scenarios where a beautiful woman would pursue them. Competition replaced worry as they argued over who should be chosen first, their selfish enthusiasm growing louder. Meanwhile, Soma observed silently, realizing their worries had shifted into foolish fantasies while a near young woman reacted with disbelief. At that instant, two young women appeared beneath them, announcing their existence and signaling that the circumstance was about to shift. The two young women reacted in surprise following learning that their chief came from other realm, struggling to understand the revelation. Afterward, everyone meted around a low seat for a dinner, yet the atmosphere felt heavier than before. One young woman silently reflected on what that truth implied. Soma's allies acknowledged the matter as private, recognizing the young woman had never known. Turning toward them, Soma admitted he kept it hidden despite their considering them friends. Their expressions softened, though uncertainty stayed. Eventually, one young woman beamed with admiration, overcome by the idea that Soma was a hero from other realm. Soma explained that he gained abilities by earning experience points, describing it as a blessing granted inside divine grace. Asks followed about the exact nature of those abilities, including resistance to drugs and heightened intuition. Memories of recent incidents made the abilities seem more unsettling than impressive. Around the seat, the team considered how much of his power really came from that mysterious system. Curiosity mixed with caution as they reflected on its limits. Soma admitted that some abilities aided survival, yet uncertainties about the structure of his ability tree stayed. Eventually, he revealed that certain abilities carried disturbing implications, proving his growing worries. Dark energy swirled beneath Soma as he clenched his fist, announcing that his power existed to face Aisu. Resolve replaced delay in his eyes. Across the seat, his allies fell silent. Weighing his resolve, the possibility that he was really a hero forced them to reconsider all things. Meanwhile, the two young women exchanged uneasy looks and proposed a startling idea. If Soma was the hero, then their teacher might be the demon lord. Legends resurfaced about a demon lord summoned from other realm by an evil goddess, deepening the tension. Despite the rumor, one young woman insisted the teacher once saved her, refusing to accept such a claim. One young woman admitted she did not wish to rise against her master, though uncertainty clouded her resolve. Soma listened carefully, requesting if that choice was really acceptable. Other confessed she would resent it if any of them were tempted away by someone else, showing jealousy beneath her peace tone. Soma smiled and declared he would rely on everyone once more, while his allies questioned whether a hero should really face a demon lord. Despite their uncertainties, the team agreed to rise together. Off to the side, one young woman stayed troubled. Night settled over the inn as silence filled their shared room, leaving her alone with restless mind. Late at night, Maria slept restlessly, murmuring in her dreams while clutching her blanket. Near, Soma lay awake, troubled by lingering mind. Moonlight covered the inn courtyard in silence, as the others continued sleeping, unaware that two figures had risen. Maria stepped into the corridor, her expression distant. An instant afterward, Soma advanced and greeted her casually. She admitted she could not sleep, and he understood with no pressing more. The quiet hallway held their unspoken worries. Turning away slightly, Maria forced a faint grin, thinking that despite their all things, this strangely fortunate group might not last forever. Maria reacted sharply to Soma's blunt honesty, calling out his certainty while he folded his arms with no delay. Quietly, Soma admitted that discovering the young woman he loved had deceived him was deeply painful. The recollection still weighed on him. Maria argued that shutting others out because of that wound would only lead to isolation. The two stood side by side in the quiet corridor, tension lingering. Soma reflected that rather of fearing betrayal, he preferred bonds where such fear no longer mattered. Maria turned away, confessing she could not portion his outlook while he forced a faint grin. Maria accused Soma of lacking knowledge, frustrated by his blunt manner since the beginning. He listened with a tired expression. She confessed she could not understand him and declared her loyalty stayed with her teacher. Soma silently accepted her stance. Abruptly, Maria stepped ahead and announced her intention to tear the party apart, her emotions surging in the narrow corridor. Soma's gaze sharpened as he answered that their bond would not fall still if she had not yet crossed a line. Under the crescent moon, Maria shouted that she was trying to hurt him, yet he stood firm, ready for whatever followed. Soma smiled gently and suggested they merely reconcile, treating the conflict as something they could move forward. Maria turned away and claimed she had no intention of becoming his friend. When they stood back to back, Soma silently admitted he already considered her one. Embarrassed by his response, she tried to walk off, but irritation stopped her. Shame colored her expression abruptly. Maria spun around and proposed a compromise, her voice trembling despite her daring posture. With determined eyes, she declared she would continue trying to win him over, refusing to leave that role to anyone else. Blushing yet resolute, Maria declared she would help him fight the teacher's followers, unwilling to watch anyone else win him over. From a distance, Soma interpreted her proposal as a conditional alliance, trying to organize her emotions into useful terms. She proved it bluntly, explaining they might be enemies by fate but allies in emergencies. Soma accepted the idea as progress. Under the moonlight, she insisted he should not mistake her motives for faith, then hurried away down the corridor. Before leaving, Maria revealed with a teasing grin that she had been his very first enemy in this realm. Maria reminded Soma that her real goal was to become his friend, leaving him embarrassed by her unshaken declaration. Under the quiet moon, a together front appeared against the party crushers, strengthened by renewed bonds several days afterward. The scene shifted to a lively pleasure district filled with crowds and glowing signs. Within a love hotel, Soma found himself lying on a bed next to a young woman who seemed fully ready for something far beyond his assumptions. Stunned and sweating, he stared in disbelief, unable to comprehend how events had spined into such a circumstance.
A few days following returning from the hot spring, the isekai traveler walks inside a decorated town street. Banners hang overhead while crowds enjoy their time, yet he looks detached from the festive mood. Boredom weighs on him. Peace has replaced risk, and the quiet routine feels dull compared to former adventures. Gorifus spends his day at an idol tour. Clay and Dean attend a spellcraft book fair, absorbed in their interests. Maria follows her own strategies in the workshop, while Sophia stays occupied with church responsibilities, watching everyone busy. He thinks about finding a hobby to give purpose to his uneventful days. In a narrow street, two men corner a Spellcraft Academy student near a wall covered in spots. The traveler spots the uneasy scene as the young woman rises frozen before them. The men force her for help with spellcraft, bending nearer while she fights to respond. Fear shows in her trembling posture, sweat meets on her expression. As she declines once more, one man grabs her arm, insisting she cooperate. Before things escalate, the traveler walks ahead and pulls the man back. He points out her fear and orders him to stop. Anger rises as the aggressor grips the traveler's collar, demanding to know who dared interfere. The aggressor mocks the traveler's plain appearance while tightening his grip. Bystanders hesitate, sensing the tension rising in the alley. Recognition slowly dawns on one of the men. Sweat appears on his expression as he examines the traveler more carefully. Whispers spread among them as they connect him to rumors of strong feats and feared allies. The traveler rises clumsily, unsure how to react. Memories of his exploits surface in their thoughts, exaggerating his image into something dangerous and unpredictable. Panic takes over certainty. Convinced they provoke someone terrifying, the men release him and flee, leaving the stunned traveler beneath. Following the men flee, the traveler rises alone in the alley. Confusion overwhelms him as he asks how his reputation has grown so distorted. The tension drains from his body and he nearly falls in disbelief. The academy student comes to with a soft grin and extends her hand. Gratitude fills her expression as she thanks him for stepping in. She brings up overhearing the rumors previous and understands who he is. Shock passes over his expression when she asks if he is Toma. Introducing herself as Koyuki, a first year at Jiranka's Spellcraft Academy, she bows politely. With shy resolve, she discloses she has been searching for him. Koyuki shyly admits she has heard many rumors about him and discloses she has been searching for him specifically. Blushing intensely, she meets her courage and declares that she thinks he might be the person connected to her destiny. Her enthusiasm contrasts with his stunned silence. Surprise moves across his expression as he fights to understand her words. In the middle of his confusion, she spots his shirt button is about to fall off. Panicking, she insists on fixing it immediately, blaming herself for not acting sooner. Determined, Koyuki declines to let her savior leave looking untidy, while Toma rises overcome. Koyuki confidently takes responsibility for fixing his shirt and proposes moving somewhere suitable. Toma hesitates but admits he cannot handle it properly in the street. She swiftly offers to support him. When they walk, he abruptly understands he has noticed this place before when Maria once brought him there. The building comes into view, showing it is a love hotel. Surprise seizes him as he shouts in disbelief. Within, Koyuki silently says it is merely a facility for resting. Toma observes nervously as she readies the room. Seconds afterward, he rises clumsily while she innocently asks him to undress so she can repair the button. Within the room, Koyuki cheerfully starts preparing to sew his loose button. While examining his clothes more carefully, she spots other issue. A tear in his pants catches her focus. She silently informs him that it also needs fixing. Prior to him can protest, she insists on handling all things herself. Toma clumsily sits still as she works swiftly and with no delay. Steam soon fills the bathroom as she proposes he take a bath to avoid catching a cold. Though embarrassed, he convinces himself her motives are innocent. Following washing up, he returns to find her waiting with his repaired clothes, rising silently in the room. When Toma walks out, Koyuki abruptly covers herself with a cloth, her expression burning red. His startled response fills the room with awkward tension. Rather of withdrawing, she grins with an odd intensity following realizing he saw her. A daring spark appears in her eyes. Cold air swirls violently as Tama feels spellcraft appearing. Surprise moves across his expression as she unleashes an abrupt burst of power. With swift force, she throws him onto the bed, announcing there is no need to carry back. The mattress shakes from the impact, landing on top of him. She pins him down and asks whether he dislikes young women who act daringly. Koyuki, flushed and breath heavily, confesses her certainty that he will accept her. Resolve shows inside her shame as she leans nearer. Tama lies stunned beneath her, insisting he only meant to help. Meanwhile, she gazes down with shining eyes.
In a quiet inn-room, Koyuki rises near to Tama, her towel barely secured. Steam hangs in the air. Tama stiffens on the bed, startled by her abrupt boldness. She walks ahead with certainty, claiming she is ready. Concern moves across his expression as he raises his arms defensively. Surprise overwhelms him. His mind races, unable to understand how events escalated so swiftly. Shame tightens his expression while Koyuki observes him with playful satisfaction. Silence settles among them, though alone together. Tama cannot grasp why the circumstance feels fully beyond his restraint. Koyuki assures Tama she will handle all things. Prior to him can react, she gets onto the bed and leans over him. Startled, he recoils and tries to stop her advance. She comes nearer with a flushed grin, pressing against him. Tama fights to carry her back. His body tense and unprepared. Abruptly, an odd feeling moves inside him. His eyes widen as he feels his strength draining away. Koyuki pauses, noticing his response. They separate slightly, facing each other in confusion. Blushing deeply, she admits her strong feelings. Certain of their bond, she thinks he is the one meant for her. Koyuki speaks earnestly about destiny, but Tama asks where that certainty began. Doubt appears. As he remembers something she mentioned previous, he leans more, requesting about the source of her belief. A recollection surfaces of someone who granted her unusual abilities. Realization strikes him. His guard had lowered because no risk was detected, yet the habit currently feels deliberate. Koyuki says that other person declared Tama her destined partner. The claim hangs heavily among them. Embarrassed, she admits similar seconds happened before, though each turned out to be illusions. Uncertainty takes over her previous certainty. Koyuki admits that every man she once served eventually weakened following only a few encounters. Tama hears, confused by the habit she describes. Memories surface of her school days and the boys who gradually disappeared. With nowhere to remain, she relied on someone who claimed to be her destined partner. Toma understands that each man came to see her as a burden. She insists those events belong to the former. Looking at him with certainty, she declares he is varied and really meant for her. Then she crouches on the bed and pledges herself wholeheartedly, requesting to stay by his side. Toma pulls back in concern and demands to know who she really is. Koyuki lowers herself on the bed, staying peace despite his tension. With a soft grin, she eventually discloses her nature. She says that she is a Yuki Anna, a snow woman. She adds that her kind requires something essential to survive. Tama hears carefully, sensing the seriousness beneath her words. The answer becomes clear. A Yuki Anna sustains herself inside the vitality of men, the very strength he felt slipping away. Remembering her former, Toma understands why others left her initial affection. Always faded once their energy weakened, leaving her alone once more. Koyuki says that she only needs a stable supply of vitality each day. Toma stiffens at the scale of what she thinks about normal. She insists her teacher assured her that he would never abandon her. Uncertainty passes over his expression as he asks that unseen influence. Exhausted and desperate, she pleads for help. Admitting she has reached her limit, her hands press against him as she seeks comfort. Toma hesitates, torn among refusal and worry for her survival. Accepting may cost him greatly. While he fights to decide, abrupt disturbance appears above them, hinting that an outside force is watching. As Toma hesitates, an odd gnome appears on the ceiling, silently observing the scene. The beast observes with clear intent. Meanwhile, a dark-haired woman silently readies a dinner and discloses the truth. Saving Koyuki will require more than simple resolve. She says that Koyuki is born to drain men in order to survive. Her nature makes her a natural destroyer of those who grow near. Koyuki's identity is clarified as one of the enchanting apostles who manipulate fleeting dreams. Back in the room, Tama understands that with no genuine kindness from a man, Koyuki cannot continue living. Koyuki grins shyly and asks for his help, her expression flushed yet hopeful. Tama examines her expression, realizing she really depends on him. Abruptly, he shifts his posture and pulls her nearer with unexpected resolve. His delay disappears as he chooses to act. Momentum shifts in an instant. He positions himself firmly, startling Koyuki with the abrupt reversal. Meanwhile, the dark-haired woman feels the disturbance and looks up from her dinner. Back on the bed, Koyuki trembles in shock at his boldness. Peace but serious, Toma reminds her that this act is necessary for her survival. Taking restraint of the circumstance at last, Toma turns away and steadies his breath. Koyuki misunderstands, thinking he acts only out of desire, and tension rises among them. She insists she really wants to serve him, rejecting his assumption. Her voice carries urgency as he fights to explain himself. With irritation, Toma admits he has no experience, and declines to treat this lightly. He declares his first time should be with someone he genuinely loves. The dark-haired woman hears in silence while Koyuki trembles, unsure how to respond to his resolve. When uncertainty clouds her mind, Toma reassures her that inexperience does not make her impure. Koyuki praises Toma's kindness while he turns away, embarrassed. Despite their accepting his stance, she reminds him that she still needs a man's vitality to survive. With renewed resolve, Toma declares he will protect his principles yet offer his strength rather. Confusion moves across their expressions as they try to grasp his intention. Uncertainty lingers, leaving his real strategy unclear.
In a snow-covered village, the snow women are introduced as a rare race of only females. When one loves a man of other race and bears a child, that daughter is born a snow woman who depends on her father's vitality. Throughout childhood, her father transfers vitality directly to her. Survival and growth rely on this stable exchange. Koyuki possesses extraordinary magical talent, requiring far more vitality than others. Her father goes on giving with no delay. Years of constant depletion drain his strength. By her 18th year, exhaustion overwhelms him. Vitality can be withheld briefly, but prolonged suppression weakens her body over time. Koyuki's mother tells her it is time to rise on her own. As a snow woman, she must eventually find someone who accepts her nature and can support her future. The idea disturbs Koyuki, who still clings to her father. Refusing to let go, she insists her father belongs to her. However, reality makes shift. Ready for independence, Koyuki enrolls in the 6-year Taranka Spellcraft Academy, where she must search for a suitable partner. At the academy dormitory, she soon encounters a young man connected to her fate. He cares for her and willingly portions his vitality, easing her burden for the first time. Despite their repeated meetings, the boy fights to satisfy Koyuki's overwhelming need for vitality. Each time he thinks it is enough, her body demands more, leaving him shaken and frustrated. Eventually, the strain becomes unbearable. He admits he cannot continue. Still following, claiming they were meant to be together. His withdrawal leaves Koyuki stunned. Although hurt, she accepts his decision. Deep down, she feels he was never really capable of supporting her destiny. At that instant, a composed woman with sudden eyes comes to observing the circumstance silently. With quiet certainty, the newcomer declares that the boy was not Koyuki's destined partner, leaving her speechless. The composed woman says that the boy only chased desire and never intended to shoulder Koyuki's burden. Searching for destiny thoughtlessly would only lead to more disappointment. She advises Koyuki to meet many people rather of clinging to a single promise. Limiting herself would only prolong her suffering. Gently taking her hand, the woman encourages her to search actively for a partner until her real destined one appears. Koyuki hears, uncertain yet attentive, introducing herself as an ally to troubled young woman. The woman offers guidance and validation. Under her instruction, Koyuki becomes more efficient at absorbing vitality, yet still following countless encounters. Around that time, Koyuki first heard of Toma. The name lingers in her mind, stirring quiet curiosity. When they meet, Toma asks her unusual condition. He learns that she can absorb vitality with no intimacy. Something rare among snow women. Inside cautious discussion, he understands simple physical contact is enough for her to draw strength. Gloves help her avoid taking vitality from unintended people. Understanding her restraint, Toma notes that absorbing this way lowers efficiency but preserves boundaries. Observing her actions carefully, he decides she seeks survival, not exploitation, and carries no ill will in her heart. Toma walks nearer and offers his vitality with no delay. He encourages Koyuki to merely touch him and take what she needs. As she absorbs his existence energy, She worries that taking such strength must require repayment. The act leaves her uneasy despite the comfort. Toma dismisses the idea of gains or losses, thinking their growing bond makes calculation unnecessary. His view contrasts with her caution. Still so, Koyuki fears dependence will turn her into a burden in his eyes. That uncertainty weighs heavily on her heart. Toma pauses, reflecting seriously on her worry while she observes his response in silence. Following reflecting on her fears, Koyuki suggests a varied path rather of relying only on vitality. She asks Toma to teach her spellcraft so she can grow stronger on her own. Toma admits he knows talented magicians but lacks teaching ability. Still so, he decides to support her efforts. Koyuki discloses she possesses magical power yet fights to restrain it. Training together could reduce her dependence. When they speak, she wonders if she fits his ideal partner. Toma answers honestly, acknowledging her charm while remembering his previous words. Hearing that mutual love should come first, Koyuki grins softly, hopeful about their future. Having made up her thoughts, Koyuki asks Toma to turn around. She removes her gloves, preparing to rely on direct contact. Once expressions away, she leans herself against his back and places her hand on his chest. The abrupt closeness startles him. With increased contact, her absorption becomes far more efficient. Vitality flows steadily into her, easing the constant strain inside her body. Overcome by the richness of his energy, Koyuki responds intensely. The warmth and density of his vitality shock her. Meanwhile, Toma fights to endure the awkward proximity. As she clings to him, her rising enthusiasm leaves them both embarrassed. Following the intense exchange, the room falls silent. The strain on Toma's body becomes clear as he fights to stable himself. Koyuki, currently glowing with satisfaction, understands she absorbed more vitality than intended. Shame mixes with comfort as she admits her mistake. Surprisingly, Toma recovers swiftly. He discloses that a rare ability grants him limitless vitality, preventing lasting harm. This unexpected ability shifts all things. For the first time, Koyuki meets someone who can support her with no collapsing. Grateful and reassured, she thanks him sincerely. Toma responds casually, telling her she can rely on him whenever she needs strength. Following learning about his limitless vitality, Toma tells Koyuki she can currently continue searching for her destined partner properly. Sitting next to him, Koyuki reflects on her mother's words. She starts to understand that real destiny is not someone who only seeks her, but someone who shows kindness and consideration. With a soft grin, she admits she eventually understands what she has been searching for all along. When Toma says he is cheering for her future love, she turns the thought back toward him. Bending nearer, Koyuki confesses she has already found her destined one, leaving Toma stunned. Meanwhile, a dark-haired woman sits alone, disbelief written across her expression. Meanwhile, Toma readies to leave town with Koyuki at his side. When they walk together, Koyuki clings to his arm and declines to be separated. Her resolve to remain with him only deepens. Under the night sky, she silently vows to work harder so that one day he will return her feelings. Tome hesitates, uncertain how to respond. Prior to him can answer, a heavy object falls onto the street ahead, blocking their path. A known woman rises amid the fallen goods, radiating anger. Toma stiffens as he identifies Maria's existence. Maria silently contacts the city guards, spending a communication device, reporting that an adventurer is behaving inappropriately with a minor. As her report decides, irritation overwhelms Toma. What began as a quiet day swiftly turns into public chaos.
Morning light spread across the room as Toma slept peacefully. Next to his bed, Koyuki leaned near with a peace, satisfied expression, fully at ease in his apartment. With no alert, he woke and found her on the floor, startled. Toma hurried toward her, confusion replacing his drowsiness. Gazing up at him, Koyuki appeared confused as if her remaining over required no explanation. Memories surfaced in his thoughts, her health worry had been settled, yet other issue lingered. Following being thrown out from the dormitory, she had nowhere to remain. Unable to abandon her, Toma offered shelter. Knowing this choice might disturb his quiet existence, Toma insisted the bed belonged to Koyuki as the guest, yet she argued that he was the owner of the house. Neither accepted the other's reasoning, leaving the sleeping arrangement unresolved. Following a brief exchange, they reached a compromise and decided to sleep side by side on the floor rather of spending the bed. Morning brought a shift in mood. "Koyuki," slightly embarrassed, hinted that their closeness was no longer unusual, suggesting their relationship had silently changed. She then asked for her usual morning routine, reminding him that their previous contact was necessary for her condition. In the kitchen, the ritual repeated. Though embarrassed, Tama complied, conscious that efficiency was her justification. Still, as the intimacy steadily deepened, heat filled the apartment as Tama and Koyuki continued their near routine. Sweat covered their skin, and the intensity of the instant rose beyond comfort. Although he understood this contact helped stabilize her condition, the stimulation overcome him. Footsteps abruptly echoed from outside, hurrying toward the entrance. The entrance burst open as two imposing figures forced their way within, demanding to know if the traitor was hiding there. Their existence froze the room. Recognizing known expressions, Tama raised his hands in panic. Accusations followed, claiming he had betrayed their bond prior to him could explain. Other women stepped ahead with firm resolve. She revealed that she had reported him, turning doubt into certain conflict. Toma tried to clarify the misunderstanding, reminding Maria that he had already explained the circumstance involving Koyuki previous. Maria dismissed his defense with irritation, claiming she had already informed the others about his supposed heroic actions. The two comrades stepped ahead with threatening resolve, announcing they could execute him with any spell and still let him to choose how he would fall. Before the tension escalated more, Koyuki hurried ahead and blocked them, urgently stopping their strike while insisting that Tama had helped her. Following hearing the explanation, the men reconsidered, realizing nothing at all improper had happened. They clumsily concluded that Toma's purity stayed intact. Comfort settled in the room as Toma reaffirmed the unbreakable bond among the three friends. Yet Maria stayed dissatisfied, reminding them that other woman was still involved. Abrupt noise interrupted the discussion. Furniture shook violently, and Toma turned in confusion as a heavy existence advanced. From the shadows emerged Sophia, cloaked in dark intent, gripping a massive hammer. Her cold stare silenced everyone. With no delay, she declared her purpose, to eliminate the supposed temptress clinging to Tama. The weapon struck the floor with explosive force. Koyuki stiffened, sensing risk. She wondered if Sophia's anger targeted Toma as well, while he stood frozen, unsure how the circumstance had spined once more. Sophia struck in rage, smashing the room while Toma shielded Koyuki. Wood splintered as he tried to stop her. Bruised but stable, he endured the blows and clarified the misunderstanding. Sophia, realizing her mistake, grew embarrassed. Their comrades repaired the shattered walls with spellcraft, restoring the house inside seconds. Koyuki treated Tama's injuries and silently noted how strongly others cared for him. Sophia then asked about Koyuki's remain. Following a brief exchange, they agreed she would stay there until she secured a new home. Toma unwillingly agreed to the arrangement, raising his hand with visible worry as the tension in the room slowly eased. Sophia declared she would return to her duties, yet insisted she would still see Toma daily. Her lingering attachment was clear, leaving Koyuki silently attentive. Throughout their exchange, Sophia directly revealed her real nature as a succubus. Surprising Koyuki, Koyuki silently questioned how Sophia sustained herself. Noting the difference among their needs, with quiet certainty, Koyuki stated that Toma stayed pure in matters of love, implying Sophia would never obtain what she sought, which only deepened her irritation. With quiet intensity, Koyuki concluded that Toma's vitality stayed exclusively hers for currently, her gaze sharpening with subtle resolve, abruptly changing tone. Sophia leaned toward Toma and asked whether he was free for the upcoming holiday, catching him off guard. Koyuki answered in his place, showing the event as the Tenrin Triumph Festival, known as Halloween in his previous realm. Their comrades explained that the team honored the hero who defeated the Demon King, with citizens wearing costumes in tribute. Recalling last year's event, Toma acknowledged it, while Koyuki observed that still the Holy Seal held a grand festival throughout the occasion. Sophia abruptly grasped Toma's hands and keenly asked him to attend the festival with her. The daring invitation abandoned him startled. Prior to him could answer, Koyuki stepped in with a soft grin, suggesting she enter as well. Toma stiffened as the tension among them grew. Their allies swiftly volunteered to come along, turning the private invitation into a team outing. Faced with everyone's assumptions, Toma hesitantly agreed. Sophia sighed in resignation, realizing that inviting him meant sharing the instant with others. Just as strategies appeared, one friend declined, choosing to attend a special idol performance rather, leaving the festival outing to the rest.
News moves about Odoriko's special performance. One ally commits to attending, shifting the party's strategies while the white mage hears silently. Confusion follows as responses differ. Toma remains peace, thinking about reaching out and considering who will participate. At the plaza, attendees meet near a fountain. Costumes are encouraged. Wearing a suit, Toma reflects on how unusual it feels in other realm. Abruptly, a cheerful young woman in a daring outfit rushes ahead, calling focus to him and energizing the scene. She shows her attire as support for heroes. Faced with her enthusiasm, Toma becomes self-awake, unsure how he fits into the team. Toma arrives early at the plaza, slightly bothered yet composed in his suit. A cheerful young woman thanks him and praises how well it suits him, easing the tension. Soon following, a man in a white robe comes to, adjusting his glasses with certainty. His attire draws focus, fitting the role of a refined healer. Near, a young young woman with a backpack observes the lively crowd. She notes how humans enjoy festivals, watching the scene with cautious curiosity. Focus shifts to her school-style outfit, explained as clothing that represents education and opportunity in the hero's homeland. As cheers echo, Tama rises apart under the night sky, reflecting silently on the meaning beneath their costumes. Two women advance Toma in striking outfits. One dressed as a nurse and the other in a festive red costume. Their daring appearance catches him off guard as he turns in shock. The young woman in red says that her clothing represents a holy robe that blesses children. She boastfully shows it as a symbolic tribute. Next to her, the nurse outfit is described as attire worn by assistants who support healers. The explanation carries playful certainty. Observing them, the white mage reflects on how devoted they seem to the hero's image. Abruptly, the young woman in red clings to Toma, praising his appearance while the rest of the team observes. Toma steadies himself following the abrupt embrace, regaining calm as the team meets near the fountain. With everyone assembled, he proposes exploring the festival together. They move inside crowded stalls filled with games and food. Laughter rises as some try shooting targets while others support Toma toward a small scooping game. Walking among booths, Toma feels a quiet nostalgia. The lively lights and decorations remind him of festivals from his previous existence. When asked about those memories, he admits the beginning once felt uncertain. Still so, he does not long to return. Looking ahead, Toma remembers his promise to build a strong group, choosing to focus on the future. Toma grins silently and declares he has a new goal. Instead than dwelling on the former, he chooses to build friendships in this realm. When asked about the hero's fate, he remembers that the hero stayed here, using his days next to the saint near. The others enjoy festival treats under the lantern lights. Their laughter proposes the hero must have discovered argues to treasure this place. Rising together, Toma and the young woman portion a quiet understanding, both content with the existence before them. Abruptly, an alert shatters the mood as odd shifts appear, signaling unexpected trouble. Toma makes a light laugh as tension flickers among the young woman. Despite the playful chaos, he admits they must address Ai Su-chan's issue if they want peace in this realm. Meanwhile, the parade starts and the crowd thickens under bright lights. The team meets together, noticing that Gornoff's favorite performer is about to appear. Asks spread among them about the dancer's identity. Uncertainty turns to worry as they try to recall her name. The name Nosfera is spoken, and surprise passes over their expressions. The festive mood shifts instantly. Worry lingers as they wonder how carefully this performer is connected to their current troubles. From the stage, news moves that the performer is the top-ranked killer Ava and a strong enchantress. Concern passes over the team as they realize Gornoff could be in risk. Under bright lights, her statistics and influence are revealed to the roaring crowd. Tension rises as her existence dominates the festival. Stepping ahead, she starts her grand performance while the audience cheers. Toma understands the team currently conceals a serious menace.
Gornoff's rise as an idol uneasy Toma, especially because of the woman called a group crusher, who currently stood at the center of his focus. Some of the four heroes had crossed paths with her before, while others only knew rumors. Uncertainty spread as the stage lights flared. Music roared inside the hall as she appeared, moving with certainty. The audience froze briefly, then erupted in cheers. Each gesture intensified the enthusiasm. Fans waved signs and leaned ahead, drawn in by her existence. Glittering lights framed her final pose from below. Toma sensed Gornoff was fully captivated. The concert reached its peak as the idol dominated the stage. Thunderous cheers shook the hall while confetti drifted inside the air. She leaned toward the crowd, delivering her opening song with fierce energy. Her voice carried certainty that tightened her carry over the audience. Among the sea of waving arms, Toma scanned the expressions, wondering if Gornoff was hidden there. The fans touched an uncanny unity. Worry spread inside the team as they realized certain individuals might be targeted. Regrouping became their immediate priority. A strategy appeared swiftly, splitting up to search the massive crowd they ready to protect Gornoff before the circumstance spined more. A thunderous shout echoed inside the venue, startling Toma and his companion. Confusion spread across their expressions as the noise cut inside the music. Abruptly, a towering beastman pointed accusingly at them. His fierce glare and booming voice drew focus from near fans. The man barked orders while others in matching outfits saluted sharply. Toma and the bespectacled mage stiffened as they realized he held authority. Announcing their duty to support the idol with full devotion, the captain rallied his squad. In perfect formation, they pledged unshaken enthusiasm, issuing strict instructions to stay vigilant. The captain paused. Facing Tama and his ally, he hesitated, uncertainty flickering beneath his stern expression. Two overzealous fans grabbed the bespectacled mage, demanding respect for their captain. Tension rose as the Beastman chief advanced to intervene. With booming pride, the squad proclaimed Gornoff's greatness, praising his passion, virtue, and loyalty to their idol. Their devotion echoed across the venue. Overcome by the praise, Gornoff clutched his head in shame. Toma gasped for breath next to him as the guards abruptly halted, startled by a new existence. The idol stepped ahead from the stage lights and silently stopped the confrontation. She declared the men to be her friends, silencing the squad instantly. Facing the crowd once more, she announced an important message, before the following song attracting every ear back to her. Facing the roaring crowd, the idol announced she would recruit a bodyguard squad to handle recent disturbances. She urged someone to protect her throughout live performances. Excited fans shouted in approval while she added that the role would be paid. Enthusiasm surged still higher at the promise of payment. Surprise spread across Toma and his companion as they realized her clever move. The offer shifted the crowd's focus instantly. When Toma tried to advance Gornoff, he was brushed away. Gornoff stayed absorbed in cheering, unwilling to leave. Afterward, the team meted around a seat to discuss the circumstance, preparing their following step. Following meeting at the seat, the bespectacled mage pointed out that Nosfera seemed to be Gornoff's favorite. Toma carefully brought up the issue of the party crusher. Gornoff's expression hardened as he questioned their says. Doubt flickered across his expression. The elf young woman silently explained that Nosfera had once been connected to their teacher. The revelation deepened the tension in the room. Arms crossed, Gornoff wondered if the bodyguard strategy was meant to pull him away from the team. Uncertainty weighed heavily on him. Bending ahead, Toma urged him to face them, determined to shatter inside his delay. Gornoff admitted he did not believe his friends were deceiving him, yet delay lingered in his eyes. Clasping his hands, he declared his faith in Nosfera. Still, if she carried the label of group crusher, he insisted. There must be a reason. The others exchanged uneasy looks while requesting whether anything suspicious had ever happened before. Gornoff stayed peace and stable. He explained that watching her shine on stage only inspired him more. To him, she had always been number one. When pressed once more, he firmly denied any wrongdoing. The team fell silent, struggling to find proof strong enough to sway his conviction. Gornoff silently explained that live shows alone could not cover expenses. Devoted citizens supported Nosfera more by purchasing merchandise, treating it as an additional tax. The mage clarified the meaning of those taxes while Gornoff boastfully described themselves as her loyal citizens. Understanding slowly spread around the seat. With folded arms, Gornoff insisted the system felt natural. In return for their payments, they received goods and the joy of supporting her. The others recalled how Tama had sacrificed quest payments before. Gornoff acknowledged that everyone chose their own way to back a favorite. Smiling with no regret, he declared he would instead buy her goods than save money, leaving the team stunned. Gornoff boastfully revealed the price of his cheering outfit, calling it a bargain despite the staggering cost. Tama nearly choked on his drink at the number. The young woman stared at him in disbelief, calculating how many years of tuition that sum could cover. Surprise spread across their expressions. Some argued that such money could save countless lives, while others muttered that it was absurd. The mage silently noted how many rare books it could have bought. Turning serious, they asked whether he intended to enter the bodyguard squad. Toma admitted overspending was wrong, yet words alone would not sway him. Gornoff silently explained the work was limited to live shows, insisting he could balance devotion and friendship. Toma realized they could not force Gornoff to quit. Leaving him isolated would only repeat former mistakes, so he chose a varied advance. Soon following, an interview venue was ready for the new bodyguard squad. Applicants lined up as the strategy silently touched ahead. Nosfera encouraged those who passed, counting on their loyalty. Selected candidates stood boastfully, pledging absolute protection throughout every performance. Beneath the scenes, Tama and his allies resolved to infiltrate the squad. For Gornoff's sake, they ready to guard him from inside.
A carriage rolls inside the city as the young explorer escorts Nosfera, recently assigned as her private guard. Weeks have passed with no incident, and she has shown no suspicious conduct. On stage, bright lights surround her while the crowd waves glow sticks in unison. She rises at the center, commanding focus with natural certainty. Energy fills the hall as her performance pushes beyond assumptions. Sweat moves down her expression, yet her focus never shatters. Training goes on indoors where she practices seriously. Among sessions, she greets supporters and remembers the guards by name. Afterward, uncertainty is questioned. Gradually, admiration takes over doubt in her guard's heart. Within a quiet room, the veteran warrior asks Nosfera's motives. The young guard insists there is no real issue and thinks the circumstance may be a misunderstanding. Worry stays as the older man argues that still if she uses charm to advance her dancing career, it reasons no direct harm. His tone proposes caution instead than faith. Silence follows while the guard reflects on those words. Uncertainty lingers in his thoughts, and uncertainty slowly takes over his previous certainty. Throughout the carriage ride, he observes the streets pass and wonders whether her techniques are meant only to gain admiration. Doubt silently becomes. Upon arrival, they are directed toward a small pub hidden in a dead-end alley, shifting their focus back to duty. Inside the small pub, a simple stage waits beneath drawn curtains while a few customers sit at the bar. The guards silently observe the room and its narrow layout. Following a cautious sweep, they find no immediate menace. Both stay watchful near the entrance and stage, ready for any disturbance. Focus turns to her dedication, noting that she performs solo shows still while belonging to a large idol team. Small venues never discourage her efforts. Her unit structure is explained, emphasizing how she commits fully to each activity. Consistent work supports her stable growth. Gradually, respect takes over uncertainty in the young guard's mind. When they rise backstage, the veteran reminds his partner that ambition alone does not make someone an enemy. Before the discussion goes on, Nosfera comes to with a bright expression, greeting them cheerfully. Both guards respond firmly, straightening their posture. Resolve takes over previous uncertainty as they reaffirm their duty to protect her performance. With lively certainty, she says that only the two of them are assigned today. Faith rests on their shoulders while she readies for the stage. Soon, she heads toward the waiting room, leaving instructions beneath. Responsibility settles heavily on the pair. Watching her leave, admiration becomes stronger, and quiet curiosity starts appearing in the young guard's thoughts. The young guard bluntly points out the veteran's weakness toward beautiful women instead than rejecting it. The older warrior silently admits the flaw. Memories surface of former mistakes made for charm, family debts, and misplaced faith. Regret lingers beneath his composed expression. He remembers being deceived more than once, forced into desperate circumstances and narrow escapes. Experience, however, has hardened his judgment. Once he swore never to fall in love once more. Following betrayal abandoned him humiliated. That vow shaped his guarded heart. Currently, watching the lively crowd before the stage, he examines the idol carefully, determined not to repeat the similar errors. The veteran remembers the instant he first met Nosfera, recalling how her voice and existence struck him deeply. That encounter uneasy the resolve he once believed unbreakable. Quietly, he says that dance began as a prayer to the goddess, a way to express feelings with no words. Such movement, he says, can pull someone from despair inside minutes. While the stage lights shine, Nosfera sings and dances with unshaken focus. Her goal is simple, to make everyone watching her grin. A Rod ally interrupts, announcing that preparation time has arrived. Duty calls them back to their positions before parting. Faith is placed firmly on the young guard's shoulders. The veteran abruptly scolds his partner for hesitating, insisting that Nosfera must not be disturbed. Near, the producer proposes someone fetch her, adding tension to the instant. Protectiveness flares as the older guard argues that interrupting her practice would be unacceptable. Loyalty, in his view, means ensuring her focus stays untouched. Dramatic alerts follow, though the younger guard responds silently and readies to handle the task. Their bond stays intact despite the outburst, Footsteps echo along the corridor as he comes to an entrance labeled as her waiting room. He raises his hand and knocks, firmly stabling himself. He remembers her habit of concentrating until the last second, yet resolves to call for her anyway. Within the waiting room, Nosfera turns in shock as the young guard enters. Realizing the time, she immediately understands that the live show is about to begin. With no delay, she rushes to shift, but her foot weakens on the floor. In an instant, the guard leaps ahead and catches her before she hits the floor. Momentum carries them a step back, yet he steadies her carefully. She grins, brushing off the near fall as if it were nothing at all. Serious, quietly, she insists she would perform still if injured, thinking some seconds cannot be left. Her resolve leaves him speechless. Grateful yet composed, she thanks him. He accepts it silently, reminded of his duty to protect her. Following stabling her, the young guard offers a brief thanks. Nosfera responds with a bright grin, praising him warmly for his quick response. Prior to him can step away, she abruptly leans nearer, blocking the entrance beneath him. Shock shows across his expression as the distance among them vanishes. Composing herself, she calls him kind despite their not being her devoted fan. The compliment leaves him embarrassed and unsure how to respond. Her expression then sharpens, certainty replacing softness. She observes that he has influenced still those closest to her, hinting at his growing existence. Shadows frame her as she admits a lingering debt to someone who once saved her, suggesting deeper motives beneath her grin. Nosfera corners the young guard and examines his response carefully. She proposes that winning him over would not be difficult. Confusion moves across his expression as he tries to reject the implication. Uncertainty and embarrassed mind clash while she maintains peace restraint of the circumstance. Bending in with no delay, she nears the distance among them. His breath falters as her boldness tests his resolve.
The white mage teased the young explorer and slipped him her address. Her daring conduct abandoned him uneasy as he realized she was also a rising idol. With a sure wink, she urged him to attend her live show. The gesture carried authority, making refusal difficult. Following pushing him out so she could shift, she stayed alone. Uncertainty crossed her expression as the room grew quiet, facing the mirror. She remembered her mentor's guidance. Becoming number one had beginning with gratitude and effort. As a child, she once saw a street performer ignored by strangers. That recollection shaped her resolve to rise boastfully on stage. The recollection of a desperate street performer remained with her. That dazzling figure shaped the course of her existence and ignited her desire to rise on stage. She enrolled in an academy, hoping to become someone just as radiant. Dreams felt near as she stepped toward formal training. Reality proved harsher, performing in small pubs before indifferent patrons replaced her early fantasies. At first, she blamed her lack of ability and continued practicing with determination. Soon, ridicule from classmates cut deeper than failure. Their laughter forced her to face a realm far less kind than she imagined. The producer grinned and hinted that becoming center required understanding hidden conditions. His words carried a weight that uneased her. Darkness parted as a mysterious woman appeared, offering a chance to shift her fate. The promise felt tempting yet ominous. That stranger stood daringly before them, power filling the room. The producer watched silently while she struggled to grasp what was happening. Abruptly, the air grew still. Movement ceased around her and fear spread across her expression as she realized something unnatural had occurred. With a knowing grin, the woman revealed the harsh truth of idols, leaving her shaken and questioning the dream she once admired. The mysterious woman restrained the producer and spoke of drowning fans in endless fantasies. Her restraint over the room was immediate and unsettling. She offered guidance, claiming hard work would eventually be paymented. Her promise carried both temptation and menace. Cornered and uncertain, the young idol questioned her motives. The stranger implied there was no other escape. Ambition overcame fear as she reached ahead. Achieving her dream seemed possible if she obeyed. Once she followed those teachings, visible results appeared, marking the beginning of her transformation. Her striking image and carefully chosen songs drew focus. Fans began calling her name with enthusiasm. Small pub stages turned into stable support. She performed with no showing weakness, building approval step by step. Rumors at school followed her, yet she ignored them and focused on improvement. Effort stayed her constant strength. Still, those who once uncertaintied her beginning showing admiration. Certainty replaced previous uncertainty. Large crowds eventually filled concert halls, waving lights in unison. Rising above them all, she saw her dream realized inside persistence and firm restraint. Night settled over her large estate within. She rested alone in a quiet, luxurious room. Resolve lingered in her mind as she resolved to fulfill her mentor's wish. The doorbell echoed inside the hall. Assumption crossed her expression as she wondered if Tuma had arrived. Other chimes sounded while she touched toward the entrance. Uncertainty surfaced briefly, questioning why her mentor valued him. Footsteps carried her down the stairs. Despite her success, she reflected on how easily men were drawn in. Outside the gate stood Tuma, smiling nervously. She opened the entrance and welcomed him within. They sat across from each other in the quiet mansion. She expressed comfort that he had come while he admitted delay. The atmosphere stayed polite but slightly tense. With no alert, she announced she would shower and abandoned him startled. He tried to respond, yet she had already turned away. Teasing him playfully, she tested his response before dismissing it as a joke. Shame spread across his expression as she disappeared down the hall. Abandoned alone. He steadied himself and reviewed his purpose for coming. Resolve replaced confusion. Water echoed from upstairs while time passed slowly. He waited silently, meeting his mind. He jolted upright as she returned, startled by her abrupt existence. An apology for the wait only deepened his confusion. Steam surrounded her figure as she stood in a loose robe. His calm nearly fell apart at the sight. Closing the distance, she leaned toward him and tested his restraint. The teasing force forced him back against the seat. Despite the temptation, he activated a piecing ability and steadied his breath. Focus replaced impulse in a crucial instant. Rather of surrendering, he stopped her advance and stated his real purpose. The atmosphere shifted from seduction to serious intent. He faced her directly and declared he had a request. The playful mood vanished as his expression turned serious. Kneeling before her, he asked that she stop harming Ganoff. He acknowledged her debt to her mentor but insisted it should end here. She tried to interrupt and bargain. Yet he pressed on, urging her to give up this pursuit. Confusion crossed her expression when he chose friendship over temptation. The decision uneasy her pride. Echoes of cynical beliefs about men filled her mind. But his resolve challenged all things she had accepted as truth. Surprise spread across her expression when he rejected the circumstance completely. His refusal to betray Ganoff abandoned her uneasy. He clarified that admiration for her performance was separate from desire. The distinction frustrated her assumptions about men. A trembling grin appeared as uncertainty surfaced. Accepting his sincerity would mean admitting her bitterness shaped all things. Emotion overcome her, and she clung to him while blaming cruel circumstances. Years of resentment poured out at once. Still then, she tried to dismiss his request and redirect the instant. Yet his stable gaze refused to yield. He declared firmly that real friendship meant refusing betrayal. His conviction abandoned her momentarily speechless. A slow grin appeared as she understood his words. Admitting his sincerity felt unfamiliar yet intriguing. With no alert, she lunged toward him. Throwing him back onto the bed, the abrupt movement shattered the tense stillness. Overcome and embarrassed, she cried out for Ganoff as confusion spined. He stared at her, unsure what had just happened. The entrance burst open as Ganoff charged in furiously. Surprise spread across the room, freezing both of them in place.
Within a wrecked room, Toma expressions Ganoff emerging from a dark portal, debris scattered among them. Near the wall, a small horned young woman sits silently, while Ganoff says he has become her private bodyguard, tightening the tension. Meanwhile, the white mage observes with certainty, intending to use Ganoff as leverage to damage Toma's friendships. Realization dawns on Toma, and he walks ahead, trying to stop the scheme before it deepens. Ganoff swiftly covers the young woman with his cloak and pulls her away as Toma chases following them, sensing events moving beyond his reach. Ganoff places his cloak around Nosfera and silently asks what occurred, his posture protective. Crying softly, she says she invited Tuma to express gratitude, yet implies something disturbing happened, a faint grin hidden beneath her bangs. Uncertainty passes over Ganoff's expression as he feels the story lacks clarity and suspects confusion beneath her words. Under her sudden stare, he hurriedly denies any intent to question her. Calm returns as Ganoff affirms his faith in Tuma's character, leaving Tuma frozen in shock beneath him. Nosfera coldly asks Ganoff's uncertainty, implying he suspects her of lying. Concerned, Ganoff insists there must have been some misunderstanding in Tuma's conduct. Abruptly, Ganoff drops to his knees and bows deeply, offering an apology in Tuma's place. Tuma observes in surprise as the warrior humbles himself. Disgust shows across Nosfera's expression. She turns away, clearly repelled by the display. Irritation erupts as she lashes out, covering her ears and rejecting the circumstance completely. Ganoff stiffens, while Tuma rises beneath him, confused. With finality, Nosfera declares both of them dismissed, ending the confrontation and leaving silence in the hall. Ganoff lowers his head and accepts the dismissal, announcing that neither he nor Tuma deserves to rise as Nosfera's royal guard. The words fall heavily in the silent hall. Turning away, Nosfera responds sharply when she hears his self-denial, disbelief flashing across Ganoff's expression. Abruptly, dark power erupts around her as she casts away restraint, her cloak whipping inside the air while her appear shifts. Black blade-like shapes spin around her body, solidifying into weapons under her restraint. As her expression hardens, before Tuma can reach her, Nosfera unleashes blood manipulation spellcraft, sending coagulated restraints surging toward both men. Black restraints rush ahead, binding Tuma and Ganoff as they struggle against Nosfera's spellcraft. Facing them, she accuses Ganoff of obsessively tracking her activities and appearing in inappropriate fan circles. Instead than argue, Ganoff bows his head and admits his conduct was improper. Weariness fills Nosfera's expression as she declares her disgust. Ganoff silently confesses that his feelings had turned impure, while Tuma protests from beneath him. Accepting her judgment, Ganoff directly states his love and recognizes her anger, leaving the chamber heavy with tension. Ganoff silently insists that admiration and romantic feelings can exist together. Claiming her performances gave him courage, Nosfera rejects his reasoning with no delay. Prior to him can continue, sudden restraints strike him, cutting off his words and compelling a pained response. Composed despite the blow, Ganoff accepts the consequences and announces he will withdraw, acknowledging the guard will lose 2 allies. Tuma steadies himself next to him. Turning her back, Nosfera discloses that the royal guard invitation was only a lure meant to draw Tuma nearer. Fury ignites in her eyes as she declares her strength, refusing protection and asserting she needs no man to shield her. Coagulated blood lashes inside the hall once more, compelling Ganoff to shield Tuma as the restraints slice former them. His eyes widen, sensing the attack's real force, and explosive rush teardrops inside the building, blasting outward and shattering walls while Nosfera rises at the center of the chaos. Amid scattered rubble, Ganoff steadies himself and expressions her. Nosfera coldly tells Tuma to leave and chase other fantasy rather of clinging to her. Smoke drifts across the courtyard as Ganoff recognizes her words, reflecting that admirers often become disillusioned and depart. Afterward, before a crowd, Nosfera performs confidently, unfazed by those who leave, accustomed to admiration fading as swiftly as it appears. Outside the shattered hall, Nosfera coldly tells them to leave, requesting if they need other beating before going home. Tuma rubs his head while Ganoff rises firm. Ganoff answers silently that supporters decide for themselves and vows to reflect if he brought trouble. Still, if she despises him, he accepts it. With stable resolve, he declares that being saved by her will never be erased and vows lifelong loyalty as her fan. Afterward, the two walk inside the city streets in silence, tension fading into exhaustion. Ganoff scratches his head in regret, admitting his foolishness, while Tuma gently proposes they portion a drink. Tuma moves following Ganoff inside the stone passage, calling his name and questioning whether blind devotion is all he intends to offer. Catching up, Tuma encourages him to listen. Ganoff pauses, confused by the abrupt challenge. Ganoff argues that other young women they met found resolution inside their own strength, thinking the outcomes were acceptable. Tuma counters that those resolutions did not erase their fights, insisting Nosfera must also carry unseen burdens. Walking beneath the dim archway, Tuma reflects that none of them were fully saved, leaving the thought hanging heavily among them. Ganoff asks whether Nosfera really suffers like the others. Tuma remembers that when she criticized him, her expression seemed strained despite her harsh words. Uncertainty flickers across Ganoff's expression as Tuma admits he may not fully understand performers, yet thinks her anger was not completely genuine. Stepping nearer, Tuma lightly taps Ganoff's chest and proposes he might be the one who can help her. Ganoff hesitates, worried he may be taking things too seriously once more, while Tuma only laughs at the thought. With a stable grin, Tuma vows that if it becomes embarrassing, they will expression it together, easing the tension among them. Together they rise in the city street, resolved to train harder, meet gear, and expression Nosfera once more.
Several days afterward, a crowded idol festival filled the venue. Backstage, the white mage stood apart with her arms crossed while 2 performers faced her. A tense mood surrounded her before the show. Near Armored Rod exchanged rumors about the captain and Tuma being dismissed. Fragments of gossip reached her ears, leaving a heavy feeling she could not ignore. Worry showed on her expression as she struggled to stable herself. Regret surfaced, and she questioned why the news uneasy her so deeply. Soon, an announcement introduced a secret guest. Meeting focused, she ready to step onto the stage. Under the spotlight, she appeared before the cheering crowd as the festival's leading idol. Throughout the festival, fans discussioned about changing interests as Nosfera returned to the main stage. She reminded herself that she had gained her goal. Beneath the lights, she reflected that affection disappears and constant praise is unrealistic. Still so, she accepted that truth silently. Gripping the microphone, she thought about how enthusiasm can dull over time. Parts of the audience already seemed restless. A brief uncertainty crossed her thoughts about whether performing would eventually bore them. Instead than stop, she pushed her voice ahead with force. Sound echoed across the hall, and the crowd responded with raised lights and renewed cheers. Mid-performance, her footing slipped and her body lurched ahead. Pain shot inside her as the rhythm faltered for an instant. Compelling a stable breath, she tightened her grip on the microphone and pushed herself upright. Uncertainty crept in as she faced the vast crowd. Although many still supported her, sudden criticism echoed louder in her thoughts. The weight of assumption pressed heavily on her chest. Voices from the audience shouted about mistakes and effort. Cutting inside the music, each remark struck harder than the last. Abruptly, a strong supporter roared above the noise, demanding unshaken loyalty. His cry reignited the crowd's energy. Surprise spread across the crowd as the captain abruptly appeared. The white mage stared in disbelief, while he stepped ahead with fierce resolve. With no delay, he raised his weapon and declared a daring dance of encouragement. A companion added him, and their energy surged toward the stage. Teardrops welled in his eyes as he questioned why she looked at him with renewed hope. Beneath her, supporters waved banners high above the crowd. Facing the roaring audience, he admitted that her singing and dancing had strengthened his heart. Though he uncertaintied understanding idols, conviction filled his voice. Gripping his weapon tightly, he proclaimed that her brilliance gave him strength to live for tomorrow. The captain shouted that he would continue supporting her to repay the inspiration he received. His fierce declaration stunned the white mage and silenced the surrounding noise. Hearing those words, a recollection surfaced from long ago. On a lonely day, she had watched an idol sing despite their private sadness. That performance had lifted her heart and drawn her in before she realized it. Admiration silently took root inside her. She understood then that becoming number one was never her real wish. What she desired was to rise as an idol herself. With renewed resolve, she smiled brightly and declared her aim to encourage children just as she had once been encouraged. Confetti rained over the stage as she sang with reckless joy. Only afterward did she realize the dream she chased had already come real. Smiling inside sweat and teardrops, she vowed to keep performing as long as still one fan wanted her. The crowd answered with raised hands and shining lights. Among them, the captain laughed boastfully, certain that at least one supporter would always stay. She reached ahead, promising to continue no matter what happened. Following the festival ended, the empty stage stood quiet. Away from the lights, the captain accepted his place as nothing at all more than a devoted fan. As he ready to leave with his companion, a voice abruptly called out for him to wait. Near the empty venue, she stopped the two men and called out firmly. Bending against the railing, she mocked them for their reckless devotion. Though her eyes held comfort, Tuma smiled silently while the captain admitted he could not remain ruined because of his friend. Their bond stood unchanged despite their all things. Hearing this, she teased them lightly. Yet curiosity slipped inside. She asked what they intended to do following scolding their embarrassing conduct. She shyly praised their support. Her voice softened as she adjusted her cap. Eventually, she laughed warmly and told them that being her fan was more than enough. A crow cried from a high post as dusk settled. In a quiet chamber, a young woman looked at a glowing orb and reflected on the young woman's bright expressions. Heavy footsteps echoed down a corridor. A cloaked figure advanced, suggesting that idols might be the ones really saving people. Within the hall, Tuma stood near the orb while the seated woman stayed peace. Though she acknowledged the young woman's positivity, she refused to accept him. Prior to him her desk, other woman pledged that the party would fall with no fail. The promise carried quiet certainty. With a sure grin, the noble woman declared her name and swore her vow, setting a new scheme in motion.
4 disciples of Ice-chan were known as the Apostles of Temptation. Contests with Dain, Koyuki-chan, and Nosfera had already ended, yet the white mage who added the party still threatened the party's stability. Days following the fight with Nosfera, the lead adventurer received apology gifts. Within were VIP tickets and fan club honors. His phone soon vibrated with new messages. Many things had happened recently, and Ganoff appeared extremely pleased afterward. The lead adventurer returned to the snowy town and walked toward the adventurer entrance. Within, three young women abruptly meted and pushed ahead a new request involving a special ingredient. Within the adventurer hall, a man explained a seasonal tradition at this time of year. Women often ready a sweet called angel cacao. One young woman casually mentioned an old story claiming chocolate once served as a religious tribute. Others swiftly rejected the exaggerated explanation and insisted the meaning was simpler. The man clarified that women usually gave sweets to friends, lovers, and others. For many men, the day brought nervous assumptions. The lead adventurer showed little interest. Watching him carefully, the man suspected a hidden reason beneath that response. Two young women explained the tradition more seriously. One mentioned that Koyuki intended to offer a special real love chocolate to Tuma. Soon following, the two young women faced each other with tense expressions while Tuma silently drank from his mug among them. Irritation appeared as one young woman reflected on their original role of charming men, while others complained about being affected by one. A varied young woman abruptly suggested making sweets for everyone who had helped her. The idea surprised the others. Tuma imagined the circumstance with mild confusion while the men around him reacted with enthusiasm. At the adventurer's seat, a mischievous young woman asked whether the master wanted chocolate. With a playful grin, she hinted at casting an odd enchantment. Her teasing continued while the man listened with slight confusion. A quiet laugh followed as the mood turned suspicious. Soon, the young woman boastfully declared a strategy to obtain angel cacao and force Clay to beg for chocolate. The daring idea superseded the others. Tuma and the man reacted with shock, while Ganoff silently continued eating and offered a simple suggestion. Ganoff explained that Nosfera usually handed out chocolates at fairs each year, making the circumstance seem less unusual. Two young women realized that Nosfera might also give chocolate to Tuma. Resolve appeared as neither wanted to lose in this odd competition. Other young woman confidently decided to use the event to charm the party chief. Thinking men easily became excited throughout occasions like this. The team soon ready to leave town. Tuma sensed something troublesome developing but followed along. Their destination was the forest maze located in Yonomi Forest. Upon arrival, the area was crowded with people. Many adventurers had meted, most likely searching for ingredients needed to make chocolate. The team heard about a noblewoman known as Lady Atine called the Maiden of Sword and Love. Around this season, a count's daughter regularly issued large harvesting asks. People described her as admirable and deeply devoted to charity. Tuma learned she had also donated large sums to the church. Realizing the purpose, Tuma understood she purchased massive amounts of cacao to show devotion to the goddess. However, the team abruptly suspected something disturbing. The possibility that she might be other group crusher brought concern. More discussion revealed her guards were previous adventurers. Tuma silently wondered if they had been meted inside her disruptive influence. The team considered Lady Atane's actions from one view. Parties that lost Alice might see her influence as troublesome, yet outsiders could regard her as a fair noble. One young woman silently questioned whether spending seduction on privileged people was too extreme. Meanwhile, the men stayed sure. They believed their bonds would not easily shatter. Tuma suggested focusing on harvesting cacao first around them. Many adventurers touched deeper into the forest to meet ingredients. Abruptly, a loud roar echoed inside the woods. A massive beast appeared, scattering cacao pods across the area and turning the peace harvest into chaos. In the forest, the young woman realized the circumstance was worsening. Too many adventurers hurried toward the cacao trees, and the fruit could not grow back swiftly enough. Worry spread among the team if they failed to meet enough cacao. The strategy for Koyuki and the others would fall apart. Tuma swiftly touched ahead and spotted other treants still carrying fruit. However, a crowd of adventurers abruptly charged toward the similar target, pushing others away and creating chaos. Amid the hurry, Tuma was struck and thrown away. As he fell, someone hurried to heal him while the team shouted in concern. Tuma swiftly realized his mistake following lowering his guard. Around him, adventurers were violently pushed away as chaos spread across the forest. Abruptly, the enormous tree revealed itself as a treant. Angered by the disturbance, the beast began striking everyone near. Seeing other adventurers flee, Tuma understood the opportunity. With fewer rivals staying, the fruit could eventually be secured. The young woman touched into action. One ready support spellcraft while others stepped ahead to face the creature directly. Seconds afterward, strong water spellcraft descended from above, striking the treant and beginning the contest to claim the precious cacao fruit. The young woman swiftly supported the fight. One ready intermediate ice spellcraft while other needed energy determined to assist Tuma. The spell struck the treant and froze its movements. With the creature immobilized, the team ready to finish the task, Tuma and the others hurried ahead and began cutting the cacao fruit loose. Near carts were swiftly filled as pods scattered across the floor. Soon the team proved they had needed plenty of cacao. With no delay, Tuma ordered the retreat. While the others wondered if they should meet more, the team swiftly abandoned the forest with their haul, following collecting the cacao. Tuma chose not to defeat the weakened treant. He understood the beast guarded the forest and destroying it would disrupt the balance of the area. The others soon realized his intention. By taking only what was necessary, more people could still meet cacao afterward. While the team touched away, some allies silently praised Tuma's kindness and leadership. Meanwhile, one young woman appeared her own strategy. When the chocolate festival advanced, she ready to use the event to charm the party chief.
At the Adventurer pub, Tuma waits on Valentine's Day, feeling uneasy despite the festive mood around him. A letter from Nosferatu instructs the party to stay there, stopping him from leaving to look for chocolate. His allies accept the order with no protest. Before long, a woman with bat-like accessories appears and draws focus. She notes Tuma's popularity while keeping her identity concealed. Doubt rises as her connection to Nosferatu becomes clear. The team understands who rises before them. Disorder follows when a known muffler exposes her link to Tuma, leaving her visibly embarrassed. Nosferatu denies any special preparation, claiming she merely wore what she had. Her flushed expression proposes otherwise as the party examines her response. Rising before Tuma, she recovers calm. He asks about the chocolate event and her certainty slowly returns. With a proud grin, she discloses a small wrapped box. The gift is handmade, ready carefully following causing trouble for the team. Tuma accepts it gratefully, yet their large companion abruptly offers an extravagant chocolate of his own. Breaking the instant following requesting secrecy, Nosferatu departs. Beneath her, the others argue while one ally treasures the chocolate like a priceless heirloom. At the pub seat, the gentleman in a bow tie fights to contain his irritation. He lowers his head and asks the unfairness of the circumstance. Emotion abruptly overwhelms him, and he loudly denies being favored by popular women. His outburst draws focus from those near. An elf young woman named Diane walks ahead, criticizing human obsession with appearance. Her peace judgment contrasts with his dramatic response seconds afterward. He impulsively grabs her as she speaks. Though startled, she lets it with no resisting. The scene ends in chaos as they tumble clumsily together, leaving him shaken while she stays oddly composed. Diane leans back with a teasing grin, daringly checking Clay's response. Her sure posture leaves him stunned while the others watch in disbelief. Realization follows as her disguise becomes clear. The gentleman beneath her responds sharply, yet she stays unfazed. With playful intent, she shows a shoe-shaped chocolate and offers it provocatively. Clay's calm starts to crumble under the force. Overcome by temptation, he drops to his knees and begs for a taste. Diane observes him silently from above. Shame moves across her expression as she grants permission out of pity, silently labeling his conduct as pathetic. Tuma and his companion reflect on the previous chaos, deciding it is acceptable as long as everyone involved is satisfied. Their comfort is brief as abrupt commotion echoes inside the hall. An embarrassed woman fights to push a massive wrapped object within, calling out to Tuma with urgency. The sheer size of it stuns those near. A tall warrior announces he remained up all night to complete a special chocolate for Tuma. The heavy creation gleams with pride as he insists it be accepted. Overcome, Tuma crouches in thanks while wondering how to carry such an enormous gift home. Other delivery arrives immediately, presenting in still larger heart-habited box, leaving Tuma stunned. The heart-habited box starts to melt, and Tuma feels trouble. From inside emerges Koyuki, dressed daringly and presenting herself as chocolate meant for him. His allies stare in surprise as she confidently says her preparation. Tuma hesitates while the delivery is officially acknowledged. With cheerful resolve, Koyuki declares that this day is hers to be received and demands a return for her feelings. She abruptly launches at him, creating a burst of icy force. Tuma scrambles away while the cold moves across the floor. Following the chaos settles, Tuma reflects silently, realizing that inside these overwhelming seconds, they have all changed and grown. Within the adventurer, the party meets amid lingering chaos. Despite the previous turmoil, they currently resemble a proper adventurer party, rising together with unusual unity. Tuma asks why they are still at the adventurer when other voice announces a late arrival. The entrances open once more, interrupting his uncertainties. A cheerful young woman enters carrying a basket, offering chocolate as gratitude to everyone who supports her. Her bright energy fills the room instantly. She says the treat contains a strong ingredient, boastfully claiming it grants extreme stamina. The claim disturbs Tuma. Encouraged by his allies, Tuma accepts it with determination. Realizing their bonds have strengthened inside the chaos, Tuma shouts at his allies as two of them fall in wild enthusiasm from the chocolate's effects. Their delusions spin while he desperately demands they regain restraint. Prior to him can piece them. Abrupt crowd meets within the adventurer. Heavy footsteps advance, attracting everyone's focus. A composed woman walks ahead and greets the adventurers with a sure grin. Her existence immediately silences the room. She announces Valentine's Day and praises the party for protecting the holy capital. Guards rise beneath her as authority fills the hall. To show gratitude, she shows an elegant case of chocolate. The stunned adventurers can only stare as yet other gift is added to the growing pile. The adventurer erupts in cheers as Lady Atine walks inside the hall. Adventurers whisper in awe while she advances silently toward the center of the room. Seeing several, Alice fell apart in confusion. She raises a hand and casts a spell that clears their thoughts instantly. Order returns as the spell takes effect. The source of the chaos is revealed to be tainted chocolate. Atine takes over it with her own refined gift and advises caution. Humbled by the praise directed at her, she modestly deflects the admiration. The group observes with renewed respect. Eventually, she turns her focus to Tuma, proving his identity as tension silently rises. Lady Atine informs Tuma that the reputation of White Oath has reached her noble house. As a count's daughter, she comes to him officially. With stable certainty, she expresses her desire to enter the upcoming joint raid. Surprised yet attentive, Tuma understands their following quest will involve strong allies. Athenes Ianradvados was known across the capital as the perfect noble lady, skilled in both scholarship and warfare. Her younger brother, the family heir, had fallen gravely ill. While she poured her efforts into saving him, she continued supporting the church and aiding the poor, earning overwhelming loyalty from the people. Despite her status and reputation, she remained unmarried. Proposals arrived constantly, yet none of the suitors matched her standards. She kept her composure in public, though her clenched hand betrayed the strain beneath her calm expression. Before a gathered crowd, she made a request. She asked the people present to lend their strength to save her brother. She explained that deep within a certain tower, a clear reward respawned once every 100 years. That tower held the highest difficulty dungeon in the region, known as Dankiga. The reward, she explained, could not be obtained more than once. Its form varied each time, ranging from massive magic stones to rare gems and enchanted items. The next respawn would occur in exactly 2 weeks. Among the crowd, a group of adventurers exchanged startled glances, realizing the scale of the opportunity being offered. She revealed the truth behind her request. This time, the reward would be a secret medicine capable of curing any disease, and its respawn timing varied by dungeon. Turning to face the crowd directly, she offered a reward of 300 million gold to whoever retrieved it and brought it back to her, wagering her family's fortune on her brother's survival. News of the reward spread through the crowd instantly. Adventurers shouted over each other, already planning how to spend the fortune. While Tuma stared in disbelief, wondering if this chaos was somehow tied to ice, an old warrior wept openly at the scale of the reward, declaring he would join to save the noblewoman's brother. Others muttered that her devotion to family seemed almost too perfect to be genuine, questioning whether her motives ran deeper than they appeared. Tuma admitted he suspected the same, while his companions weighed whether the obvious danger was worth the risk. Despite the warnings that the quest reeked of a trap, the group acknowledged the brother's illness was real, and the stakes mattered more than the suspicion. Tuma stepped forward and declared his intention to take part, catching his companion off guard. Elsewhere, word had reached others that the illness resisted even a teacher's healing power, and that the noblewoman had once sought that same teacher's help for her brother before turning to the public reward. Back among the group, Tuma reasoned that with a reward this great no adventurer had cause to refuse. His companions rallied around him one by one, each insisting on joining the quest to save a life. Even the reluctant among them relented, unwilling to let the others walk into danger without support, and the party began preparing to accompany him. Maria stepped forward from the crowd, declaring she would not stand down simply because the request came from a noblewoman, insisting that she alone would bring the party leader down. Athenes exhaled, muttering that this quest was already proving troublesome. Tuma thanked Maria for her resolve, and another woman stepped up beside them, announcing she would participate as well. Athenes warned the gathered adventurers that D. Inkiga was a merciless dungeon, one where even experienced veterans had lost their lives attempting it. Despite the danger, she made clear this remained only a request, not an order, and turned to walk away, leaving her warning to settle among the crowd. She explained that she intended to limit the number of participants to those who truly believed themselves capable, unwilling to needlessly risk noble-hearted volunteers. Turning back to the crowd, she announced that anyone chosen would be required to take part in an interview held at her own estate. Athenes bowed low before the crowd, thanking them for their willingness to help and asking for their continued support. The onlookers roared in response, raising their fists in encouragement. Tuma admitted that back where he came from, a similar gathering would have been called walking into a tiger's den, while his companion questioned whether he was truly certain about volunteering for something so dangerous. On the day of the interview, Tuma stood before the towering gates of the Ianradvados mansion. Awed by its scale and admitting a noble's home was unlike anything he had seen, he reminded himself that his decision was already final and stepped forward toward the entrance. Tuma reminded himself to stay alert despite the grandeur around him. The interview, he learned, was meant for the party leader alone, so he had come without his companions. Servants awaited him inside, and the butler greeted him warmly, saying they had been expecting him. Told to wait until Athenes was ready, Tuma agreed. The butler then offered him use of the estate's bathhouse to wash off his sweat, and after some hesitation and insistence, Tuma accepted the offer. Afterward, he was brought to the reception room where tea was served. Athenes greeted him warmly, asking how he found the bathhouse, while Tuma privately wondered what she might be planning. He decided that whatever scheme she had in mind, it made little difference to him. His real concern had been whether the maids assisting him had done so willingly. Athenes reassured him that she had recruited volunteers beforehand, laughing softly at his consideration. She then remarked with an amused smile that she had heard he enjoyed mixed bathing. Startled, Tuma choked on his tea, demanding to know who had told her such a thing. A flash of memory surfaced in his mind, and he suspected immediately that Ice was behind it, setting down his cup as Athenes teased that it was rare to find a man who spoke of that person. With such familiarity, Tuma asked directly whether Athenes had been instructed to bring him down. His voice tense as he set his cup aside. She confirmed it plainly, admitting someone had given her that task, yet she made clear she had no intention of actually destroying him. Her expression shifted into something colder as she added that doing so would be far too great a waste to consider. Confused by her wording, Tuma questioned what she meant by waste. Athenes explained that he held value, calling him a hero of the modern age, watching him closely as the words settled. The narration revealed that she had already learned his true identity before approaching him. Tuma reeled internally, struggling to process the idea that anyone would call him a hero, stunned that she seemed to be speaking specifically about him. Athenes pressed further, asking if he already suspected something about this revelation. Tuma immediately assumed the information had come from Ice, but she waved off the idea with a laugh, denying it had come from that source, leaving him even more uncertain about how she had learned the truth. She revealed that she had sent someone to personally investigate the birthplace he had registered with the Adventurers Guild. Her contact reported back that no one there had ever heard of him. Flipping through documents with a knowing smile, Athenes reminded him that false declarations were not permitted, leaving Tuma visibly unsettled as his fabricated background began to unravel. Athenes revealed that Tuma's oldest quest record showed him working alongside a man named Ganoff, who had once belonged to a mercenary group called Red Raging Bull. Her investigation had turned up something unexpected, and she pressed further, tracking down mercenaries who had once traveled with Ganoff and questioning them directly about what they discovered together with Tuma shortly before his very first quest. Those mercenaries described finding Tuma speaking an unfamiliar language, dressed in clothing that resembled garments from Chikyu, wandering alone through a dangerous forest without any weapon to defend himself. Athenes later confronted him about it directly, revealing that rumors also spoke of him possessing an unusual ability to sense crisis and danger before it struck. She continued, explaining that another individual she knew of also carried a similar mysterious power, someone of unknown origin whose story closely resembled old legends surrounding heroes summoned from other worlds. Tuma struggled to process the revelation, stunned that someone had pieced together the truth entirely on their own. Athenes admitted she had begun to suspect that he and this other person shared the same origin, both having crossed over from another world entirely. She held up a page covered in unfamiliar script, the strange writing catching Tuma off guard as he studied it with visible confusion. Despite everything she had uncovered, Athenes paused before continuing, hinting that there remained more to the situation than what appeared on the surface. Athenes accused him directly of hiding the same secret himself, calling it the reason she recognized the signs so easily. Tuma panicked at the suggestion, questioning whether the world would truly want a new hero revealed. She reassured him she had no intention of exposing his identity to anyone, pleased that he had gotten straight to the point. She asked what he wanted in exchange for her silence. Tuma hesitated, sweating under the weight of the offer. Athenes then made her request clear, declaring that she wanted him to become her knight. She promised him a life upgrade befitting his worth, offering a spacious mansion in place of the small room he currently rented. She added that if any of her maids caught his interest, he was free to pursue them, so long as it remained consensual, and assured him a sufficient salary would come with the position. Tuma reacted with visible shock at the scale of what she was offering. She painted the arrangement as ideal, framing it as the best possible outcome for someone in his position. In a private aside, it was revealed that her real motive was simply to confirm whether he was an ordinary man, reasoning that if he accepted a life of comfort and pleasure, his own happiness would be enough to remove any concern. Athenes teased him further, listing a big house, a beautiful mistress, and a harem of maids as part of the deal. Admitting even she found the offer tempting, Tuma ultimately declined, stating plainly that he could not become her knight. Athenes seemed unsurprised, calling it unfortunate. He explained that he already had companions he had chosen to reach a rank together with, unwilling to abandon them for the offer she extended. Undeterred, Athenes leaned in close and offered a different proposal, asking playfully what he would say if the reward itself turned out to be her. Tuma flinched, visibly startled, as her hand moved to grip his shoulder. She continued teasing, suggesting that he might actually be able to have her watching his flustered reaction with clear amusement. Tuma froze, overwhelmed and unable to respond as she leaned closer, her confidence unshaken by his hesitation. She revealed that she and 3 others, together known as the 4 Apostles, each possessed unique abilities specifically suited for seducing men. Stunned, Tuma asked whether she used this same approach on other adventurers as well, unable to hide his disbelief at the implication. She began explaining the abilities of her fellow apostles one by one. Koyuki's power, called fledgling, worked by creating fateful encounters that stirred men's protective instincts, leading them to willingly offer up their energy. Diane's ability, Faith, broke down mages' spirits through genius-level magic, causing them to cling to her out of dependence. Athenes described her own power, Domination, as the ability to expose everything about a target, stimulate their deepest desires, and place them fully under her control. She then described Nosfera's ability, Absolute Singer Cadenza, which captured the hearts of the masses through overwhelming singing talent, drawing them irresistibly toward her. Athenes recalled how men had tried every approach to win her over, offering money, honor, or influence, whatever seemed likely to work. Tuma admitted plainly he would use whatever means necessary too, if women alone could accomplish something meaningful. She added that despite everything she had offered him earlier, she confessed that no man had yet proven himself worthy enough to receive her virginity. She explained that his desire to cure his own brother made him precisely the kind of person she valued most. Tuma paused, absorbing her words carefully as she clarified further, stating she wished for treatment for her brother, free from men who only sought her for herself. Tuma sat frozen, quietly registering the weight of what she'd revealed. Tuma admitted that if he were in her brother's position, he wouldn't want to bond with someone through exploiting a sick person's condition. Athenes countered that she wouldn't find happiness either, if her illness were cured only through her sister's sacrifice, clarifying she did not consider sacrificing herself for those she loved to be an actual sacrifice at all. She then asked what would become of those who served under her. Tuma insisted he would give everything to the quest itself, refusing to treat her as some kind of sustenance to be consumed. Athenes challenged him, asking whether it was truly wrong for a woman to hunt men the same way adventurers hunted monsters for survival. She teased that his 2 companions seemed starved for female company, suggesting offering them maids as part of the reward would surely please them. Tuma's expression darkened at the remark. Athenes reassured him she didn't care what methods he used, so long as her brother could be saved, offering to grant him whatever he wished. Impressed by his resolve, Athenes praised him as admirable, while Tuma insisted they would give everything to the quest regardless of any reward. As he turned to leave the room, he added that rewards still mattered to him, despite his words. Athenes smiled, remarking with amusement that 300 million gold seemed like a surprisingly modest sum for him to be satisfied with. Tuma snapped in anger, warning her not to insult his companions. He explained firmly that they were joining the quest purely because they wanted to help her brother, refusing to let their motives be twisted into something lesser. Athenes smiled quietly to herself as he walked away, watching from the balcony as he departed the estate. Standing before the grand mansion afterward, Tuma silently hoped his companions would remain unchanged, even after receiving such an enormous reward. Elsewhere, someone crept quietly through the mansion's dark halls, watching Athenes from a distance before slipping away unnoticed. Alone in a grand room, Athenes sipped her tea in thought. Nearby, someone else murmured about the moment being their last chance to save the sick child, silently vowing to pay whatever price was needed. Back in a different location entirely, a masked figure moved through a chaotic battlefield, striking down enemies with fierce precision. A cheerful voice cut through the noise, teasingly asking Athenes-chan how the joint raid was progressing. Athenes reacted with visible unease at the sudden interruption. She replied that things were proceeding smoothly, noting that both her own goals and her teacher's aims seemed on track to succeed. The unnamed companion remarked that Athenes remained as elusive as always. Moments later, the same figure teased her further, guessing playfully that Tuma had turned down her advances, laughing and embracing her while Athenes looked visibly unimpressed by the accurate guess. Reflecting privately, Athenes admitted she had once believed hiring Tuma outright would prove easier than her usual methods, especially since he had already turned down temptation and remained loyal to his party. Her companion, delighted by the news, laughed knowingly, remarking that resisting seduction was simply Athenes' usual approach to testing men. Continuing their conversation, the companion joked that if Tuma truly was the hero, then she herself must be the demon lord, and Athenes replied simply that she was glad. The companion pressed further, accusing her of secretly wanting to turn the hero into her own ally rather than anyone else's. Athenes denied it firmly, insisting she would never attempt something so deceitful. She explained, instead, that while the goddess had refused to save the sick child, her teacher was different and willing to help. The companion, teasing further, concluded that this made Athenes essentially the demon lord's minion, prompting Athenes to declare she would never betray her. A shadowy horned figure loomed silently in the darkness as the companion smiled, saying she was counting on that loyalty. On the day of the joint raid, Tuma stood nervously beside an older man who asked what was troubling him. Tuma brushed off the question, insisting it was nothing. The chapter title revealed itself as the group gathered outside a grand estate, with Tuma admitting he had recently been acquiring skills and had found one that caught his attention. Tuma pointed out, with visible frustration, that among his abilities were skills that seemed only useful for perverted purposes, alongside ones with clear practical value. Illustrated as a small rabbit surrounded by skill nodes, the skills labeled Otherworld Language, Release Limit Breakthrough, Miraculous Woman Trouble, and Status Ailment Resistance appeared connected in sequence. He explained that Otherworld Language had proven genuinely useful, but reaching Status Ailment Resistance in the skill tree had forced him to also take Release Limit Breakthrough and Miraculous Woman Trouble along the way. Tuma admitted that his current skill path seemed to be leading toward combat enhancement, though he wasn't entirely certain. His companions teased that some men would find such abilities drool-worthy, prompting him to laugh it off. A rabbit-like figure appeared before a skill labeled Holy Sword Release, hesitating over whether to claim it, despite having only accumulated 300 of the needed 1,000 points, admitting that lately, his skill points had been building up much slower than before, making progress increasingly difficult. Another companion questioned whether points could be earned through means other than defeating monsters. It was suggested that the greatest period of growth came early on during one's beginner stage, and that acquiring new skills might follow a similar pattern to refining combat techniques. Tuma admitted he had hoped to finish preparing in time for that day, though it hadn't quite worked out. Despite the setback, his companions reassured him cheerfully that they now had even more allies at their side and would surely make it through together. Among the gathered adventurers, one young woman stood out, raising her staff high as she rallied the crowd. Onlookers remarked that she seemed to have reached out to a great number of people, noting the wide variety of towns represented and commenting on how many unfamiliar adventurers had shown up for the occasion. The scale of the gathering surprised Tuma, who realized that all these people were competing for a single elixir. A booming introduction announced the arrival of White Lily's Profusion, a group composed entirely of women, drawing gasps of admiration from the crowd. Moments later, another announcement introduced the Ace Party from the neighboring town, Red Lion's Fangs, prompting further excitement and awe from the onlookers watching the impressive lineup assemble. The narration introduced Tuma's own group as the already famous strongest B-rank party, White Oath. Elsewhere in the crowd, rival adventurers boasted loudly that despite having several A-rank participants and being only recently promoted themselves, they had no intention of falling behind anyone in the competition ahead. Rumors spread rapidly through the crowd, questioning the personnel management skills of the man now nicknamed Black Tamer Tuma, whispering that alongside Snow Fairy Koyuki, he had somehow added a mysterious little girl to his ranks. Tuma snapped irritably at being called a tamer, denying the accusation loudly. A small child insisted her outfit was perfectly ordinary, greeting a nearby stranger politely, before someone recognized her and asked directly if it was truly her. Tuma greeted the child warmly, complimenting her manners as she stood awkwardly beside him and Koyuki, questioning why she had approached them in the first place. Shocked by something unexpected, the girl suddenly demanded that they abandon the quest entirely. Startled by her outburst, Tuma refused, explaining that clearing the quest would allow them to save someone they cared about. Another voice apologized but firmly stated they could not withdraw either, since a child's life depended on completing it. The girl coughed suddenly, catching Tuma's concerned attention as he asked if she was all right, only for her to warn ominously that everyone present would face consequences, before being cut off by her own coughing fit. The surrounding group reacted with confusion, wondering aloud who this unfamiliar child even was. Before the assembled crowd, an imposing masked official called for everyone's attention, shouting for silence as adventurers gathered below the balcony to hear the announcement regarding the quest ahead. Athenes addressed the crowd from above, thanking everyone for gathering and promising to skip unnecessary preamble. She explained that generations ago, a safe transfer gate leading directly to the 90th floor had been installed within the dungeon, and that ordinarily D&Kiga contained 100 floors in total. Nearby, the mysterious girl reacted with visible alarm at something being said, her expression shifting to unease as the explanation continued. Athenes called out to the assembled crowd, urging seasoned warriors to take up their swords alongside her and save the innocent child waiting to be rescued. The crowd erupted in enthusiastic cheers, ready to answer the call. An official prepared a massive transfer mechanism, announcing that the process was about to begin. Tuma reacted with alarm, shouting for everyone to wait a moment before the transfer proceeded any further. Startled by the sudden shift, Tuma turned to notice the mysterious child now standing among the group, questioning what was happening as chaos briefly stirred around them. Later, someone asked whether the child could at least be sent back safely instead of remaining, but Tuma immediately rejected the idea, refusing to allow it. The assembled adventurers stood before a massive transfer device built into the ancient stone structure. Someone explained that even accounting for emergency return functions, the mechanism couldn't reasonably be spent on transporting a single child, since a transfer of that scale demanded an enormous amount of magical power, making it effectively impossible. Tuma insisted they couldn't simply abandon the child now that they had already arrived, prompting his companion to ask what other option remained. Athenes then addressed the gathered adventurers directly, declaring that they now stood inside Dinkiga itself, and called upon any warriors seeking the elixir to follow her lead. Elsewhere, a rival group cheered loudly, boasting that they intended to be the ones to claim the elixir for themselves, brushing off doubts with excited shouts as they pushed forward together. Chaos erupted as the group tumbled forward through the transfer, someone shouting for everyone to stay together and follow the two leading the charge. Amid the confusion, panic spread that something had gone terribly wrong. Deeper in the corridors afterward, Tuma noticed the mysterious child running an alarmingly high fever, prompting immediate concern from those around her. It was explained that activating the transfer gate depended entirely on Athenes' magical power, meaning that if she died, the remaining group would be forced to climb all 90 floors on foot to escape. Someone admitted regret that the noblewoman had rushed ahead before they could warn her the mission was being called off. Others worked quickly to apply emergency healing and purification to the ailing child, insisting that Athenes needed to remain safe for anyone to return home. Weakly, the child finally introduced herself through coughs, revealing her name was Arte, leaving Tuma to wonder aloud exactly who she really was. Suddenly it clicked, and Tuma blurted out that she must be Lady Athenes' sister. His companions reacted with surprise, questioning how that could be true since Athenes was only known to have a brother. Sitting together quietly afterward, Arte confirmed that her household in truth had no male heir at all. Tuma struggled to process the implication, slowly realizing the truth behind the deception, and Arte confirmed with a hesitant yes that she was indeed Lady Athenes' sister. Arte explained that her father, lacking a son of his own, had resorted to raising her as the eldest son instead. A story she admitted sounded like something from old tales. She revealed that a child fated to die before reaching adulthood could never legally inherit a family's title, and that once her illness proved incurable, her father lost all interest in her entirely. Standing before a rain-streaked window, Arte quietly explained that to save her, her sister had apprenticed herself to a witch regarded as evil, sacrificing herself for Arte's sake. Arte admitted that her sister had changed after making that sacrifice, growing colder and more calculating over time. Tuma asked cautiously whether she meant ice, the same figure everyone whispered about. Arte revealed that thanks to a magical tool the witch had given her sister, her own death had been postponed indefinitely. She confessed with visible guilt that her sister had begun treating people like pawns to achieve her goals, insisting that everything her sister did was ultimately for Arte's sake alone. Arte recalled the day she had overheard Tuma and her sister speaking together, realizing she felt compelled to intervene and stop whatever was happening. She explained tearfully that because of the bond forged through the witch's magic, her sister was incapable of defying the witch's will. Overwhelmed with guilt, she cried out that she no longer wanted her sister committing wrongful acts on her behalf. Tuma asked quietly whether that belief was what had driven her actions. He reasoned aloud that if the plan meant to pit the group against each other for the reward simply failed on its own, then even if everyone withdrew and the quest collapsed entirely, nothing would truly change. Arte admitted through tears that the magical tool sustaining her life had nearly reached its limit. Sitting alone against the stone wall, Arte reasoned that if this attempt failed, the very reason compelling her sister to commit wrongdoing would vanish along with it. Elsewhere, various companions absorbed the weight of what had been revealed, their expressions heavy with quiet realization. Tuma reflected that Arte, her small body ravaged by illness, had still come forward hoping to help adventurers she didn't even know. Reasoning that her beloved sister would never destroy the bonds others had built together, he told her gently that he understood her intentions and thanked her for trying to help them despite everything she was going through. Moved by his words, Arte murmured his name softly in response. Tuma declared to the group that they had to move forward just as Athenes had, pressing on toward the same goal. Startled, someone reacted with visible confusion, unsure of what he meant. Arte tried to protest that her sister would face consequences, but Tuma cut her off, stunning her into silence as he announced firmly that they would proceed to the deepest part of the dungeon and obtain the elixir themselves. Tuma reasoned that if Arte's illness were cured, her beloved sister would have no reason to continue serving the witch and could finally return to who she used to be. Confused, Arte questioned what he meant, and Tuma explained with a grin that there was indeed another way to stop her sister after all. The group insisted on pressing forward without further delay, boasting that their bonds were far too strong to crumble over something as trivial as money, urging Arte to trust them despite her worry over the promised reward. Reassured by their determination, Arte agreed enthusiastically, and the whole party moved forward together with renewed resolve. The party battled fiercely through the dungeon, unleashing powerful attacks against the horde of monsters blocking their path. Finally reaching the boss afterward, Tuma checked on Arte with concern, and she reassured him with a smile that she had grown used to such intense battles. Samanon asked whether the other participants in the joint raid had made it through safely. Tuma stressed the urgency of delivering the elixir to Arte as quickly as possible, while a companion noted that healing magic alone had proven too weak against her illness. Confident in their own strength, two of the party members boasted they faced no problems at all, prompting Tuma to remark quietly on how reliable they had become elsewhere. Exhausted fighters trudged onward, acknowledging that the dungeon's brutal difficulty had already caused a fair number of adventurers to drop out along the way. Samon confirmed that a special monster indeed guarded the deepest part of the dungeon, worrying aloud about Koyuki's inexperience with dungeons despite her clear resolve. A companion noted the slow pace of magic deployment, estimating only 60 points gathered so far, while another reasoned that since Athenes herself had chosen this group, they should at least be capable of protecting themselves. It was explained that the full truth about the boss remained poorly understood. Though monsters were said to be born deep within, coalescing around some object or facility rumored to serve as the dungeon's key, while ordinary monsters wandered outward, the boss itself never moved, standing motionless as though guarding the deepest chamber. Someone has speculated that sparing the boss might cause the reward to respawn instead, though nobody could say for certain. Another theorized that the items gained from defeating it could represent the dungeon itself pleading for its own survival, calling the possibility genuinely unsettling if true. It was noted that despite the danger monsters posed, their materials and magic stones remained essential resources for human life. The group continued deeper, remarking on the massive scale of the dungeon as they approached what appeared to be a bridge crossing ahead. Chaos erupted as a swarm of monsters descended on the group crossing the bridge, prompting panicked shouts to cut it loose and save themselves, even as one member protested that she was still crossing elsewhere. Koyuki reacted sharply to something, calling out a name in alarm. Tuma turned toward her, asking what was wrong. Koyuki brushed off the outburst, insisting it was nothing and urging the group to hurry forward instead. The party pressed onward, finally arriving at the dungeon's deepest chamber. Tuma apologized to Maria, asking her to look after the child in his stead, and she agreed without hesitation. Turning to Koyuki, he confirmed this was indeed the deepest part of the dungeon. He announced that he and Ganoff would advance together to fight, while directing the rest of the group to provide bombardment and support from the rear, declaring that their strategy would proceed exactly as it always had. Samanon prepared a spell with practiced hand movements, agreeing enthusiastically when asked to enhance the entire party. One by one, the group received boosts to their magic attack power, physical ability, and physical attack power, each enhancement rippling visibly through the fighters as they braced for the coming clash. Tuma called out for everyone to move forward together, and the group advanced as one toward the towering beast waiting ahead. Startled by something unexpected, he reacted with surprise as chaos suddenly erupted around him, figures being flung aside in the commotion. The massive antlered boss roared with tremendous force, swinging its weapon in a devastating arc that sent shockwaves rippling outward, scattering fighters and debris across the battlefield as Tuma stood firm against the onslaught. The party reacted with awe at the sheer power on display, watching as one fighter clashed directly against the boss's strikes, deflecting blow after crushing blow. Someone noted with alarm that the creature's strength far exceeded records from a century ago, prompting urgent calls to concentrate and focus entirely on supporting Athenes through the fight. The boss lashed out again, sending another fighter crashing aside with a pained cry. Athenes pressed forward despite the danger, refusing to back down. Panicked allies urged her to retreat, but she pushed on regardless, coldly questioning whether her subordinates were even capable of fulfilling their most basic role as pawns in the fight. Athenes coldly demanded that at least her hired allies use their bodies to draw the boss's aggro, reasoning that doing so would create the opening she needed to strike. Elsewhere, the beast rampaged violently, scattering bodies as it lashed out at everyone caught in its path. She continued berating them, questioning what use the adventurers and knights she had paid for even served if they couldn't function as fighting power. Suddenly, someone noticed with alarm that the creature's attention had shifted directly toward them. The boss unleashed a brutal offensive, its claws tearing through the air with devastating force. Athenes gritted her teeth, refusing to let herself falter in that critical moment, absorbing the pain of the blow with a pained cry. She reminded herself grimly that she remained the only one capable of saving that child, steeling her resolve despite the damage taken. She screamed defiantly that the responsibility to save Arte rested solely on her shoulders, and that was precisely why she couldn't back down now. The force of the boss's attack sent her flying backward, weapons and debris scattering through the air as she was violently knocked off her feet. Cursing under her breath, Athenes struggled against the overwhelming assault as the massive beast closed in on her. From a distance, Arte's voice rang out in panic, calling desperately for her sister as the danger became clear. Startled, Athenes turned in disbelief, questioning aloud whether that had truly been Arte's voice she heard. Athenes stared in shock, unable to process what she was witnessing. Arte darted forward across the battlefield, crying out in refusal as she rushed toward her sister despite the danger surrounding them. Athenes demanded incredulously why the child was even present in a place as lethal as this, her fear for Arte's safety overriding everything else in that instant. Rain fell hard as a young swordsman charged forward, blade raised against a monstrous creature towering in the storm. A girl trailed behind him, caught in the chaos, her expression tense as the fight pressed close. Breathless, the swordsman steadied himself, drawing air in ragged gasps as he prepared another strike. Nearby, his companion tightened her grip, sweat mixing with rain on her face, both of them pushed to their limits by the ongoing battle. The young man was suddenly thrown backward through the air, his scream cutting through the noise of combat as the beast's attack connected. Moments later, a horned, muscular foe stood over him, wounded but still dangerous, the fight far from over. After the battle ended, two women looked on with mixed awe and worry, watching the young man catch his breath. He turned toward them, smiling despite the exhaustion, having proven himself capable in the face of real danger. One of the women, older and more composed, addressed him with quiet respect, while the younger one beside her looked on with open admiration for what he had just done. The story shifted backward in time. A grave stood in the rain, marking where a mother had died giving birth to her second child. Grief-stricken, the father chose to raise that child, a daughter as a son, naming her his heir. Mourners in dark clothing gathered under the storm to pay their respects. Years later, only one person in her life had ever seen her for who she truly was, treating her not as an heir in disguise but simply as a beloved little sister. After Arte's father withdrew into his own grief, the family searched for a cure for her illness, but nothing worked. Desperate, Arte took it upon herself to find a solution, believing she was the only one who could save her little sister. Men claiming to help only wanted her wealth or her attention, so she stopped waiting for saviors and began writing letters herself, determined to find real answers. Her search led her to a mysterious teacher, an elegant woman who examined her sister and delivered a grim verdict, The disease could not be cured, only slowed. Arte, worn down by disappointment after disappointment, asked bitterly if this teacher was just as useless as everyone else who had come before. That night, the teacher visited Arte's sister as she slept, fitting a strange bracelet onto her wrist. The device hummed softly, drawing something invisible from the air. Arte, watching in silence, realized this woman might actually possess the power to help even as questions formed behind her widening eyes. The teacher refused any payment but revealed the device required an enormous continuous supply of magic power to function, more than one girl could provide alone. Unsure what to do, Arte listened carefully as the teacher suggested a solution. Under the teacher's guidance, Arte began seducing and manipulating anyone with useful talent or standing, treating people like pieces on a chessboard. She swindled con artists out of their money and turned suitors seeking her hand into unwitting sources of magic power, slowly building the resources needed to keep her sister alive, whatever the cost to those around her. Time passed, and though slowed, the sister's illness continued to advance. Arte's growing influence let her gather magic power more steadily, and it pointed her toward one final hope, an ancient, brutally difficult dungeon that a member of her family had supposedly cleared long ago. If she could conquer it too, she believed she could finally cure her sister, but when she reached it, she failed. Elsewhere, a young swordsman and his companions faced their own battle against a towering, horned beast within the same dungeon's walls. One of the girls in his group summoned advanced ice magic, chains and spikes of frost erupting around her as she prepared to fight back. The boy shouted her name in warning as the creature loomed closer. The girl unleashed her spell, calling it an ice prison sentence, binding the beast in freezing chains that cracked and groaned under its immense strength as it struggled against them. The battle continued in coordinated bursts. A knight beside the group commented on the boy's raw power, crediting his strength to something he received each morning. Another ally acknowledged readiness before charging in, while the boy called out to a hulking armored figure named Ganaf, who answered with a devastating martial skill strike. The horned beast countered with its own overwhelming attack, a raging charge that shattered the ground and sent fragments flying. The small figure of the swordsman caught at the center of the explosive collision as the fight reached its most dangerous peak. A powerful blow disarmed the horned beast, knocking its weapon from its grip. With the threat momentarily disabled, one of the girls pulled Arte close and shielded her, relieved that they had survived the exchange but confused about why she had turned up in the middle of the dungeon at all. The swordsman confirmed the priority: rescue the girl first and settle explanations later, then focus on defeating the boss. His companion agreed without hesitation. Behind them, others prepared their own techniques, calling for everyone to synchronize their attacks together. The group combined their powers into an overwhelming spell, fusing their magic into a single devastating attack. Lightning and energy swirled violently as the beast roared, caught directly in the surge of combined force. The attack tore through the battlefield in a blinding storm of light and shattered debris, the group watching from below as the combined technique overwhelmed everything in its path. Smoke rose from the beast's massive, wounded body as it slowly collapsed under the force of the attack. One of the girls recognized the technique instantly, naming it the White Oath. The creature crumbled apart entirely, its form breaking down into ash and smoke as the battle came to its end. Samanon confirmed the beast was still breathing despite the earlier assault. Realizing the fight was far from over, the group regrouped and charged forward together, determined to finish what they had started. Arte, gripped by desperation, urged them onward, reminding herself silently that clearing this dungeon was the only path left to save her sister. Fueled by that desperation, Arte unleashed advanced enchantment magic, crying out for the power to cure her sibling as she channeled everything she had into the spell. The swordsman moved in tandem, his blade aimed directly at the staggering beast. He struck with a technique named Blade of Iron, cutting, slicing through the creature's defenses in one decisive motion. As the beast let out a final silent cry, the monster's massive body dissolved into smoke and vanished entirely, leaving the battlefield still. The group approached cautiously as a treasure chest emerged from the settling dust. Someone pried it open, revealing a glittering crystal formation resting inside. The group marveled at their hard-won prize, wondering aloud if the crystal was the legendary cure they sought. Arte took it in her hands, breathless and trembling, declaring that she had finally found a way to save her sister, who was said to be healed by crushing and drinking such a crystal. But before anyone could celebrate further, panic erupted as someone cried out that something was suddenly wrong with Arte herself, her body faltering as the others rushed to her side in alarm. Panic spread as Arte began coughing up blood, her condition worsening rapidly. Someone pushed through the crowd, insisting there was no time to lose and that she needed treatment immediately. A young girl in a large hat stepped forward, declaring firmly that handling this emergency was now her responsibility. The girl worked quickly, grinding down fragments of the crystal, mixing them with other ingredients, and crushing everything together into a fine powder with practiced focus. She counted down the steps until finally announcing that the treatment medicine was complete. She instructed the sick girl to drink slowly, one sip at a time, carefully supporting the bowl as everyone watched anxiously. Onlookers swallowed nervously, hoping the makeshift remedy would work as she drank it down. A brilliant light surrounded her as the medicine took effect, and moments later she gasped awake, blinking in surprise, remarking that she suddenly felt lighter than before. Arte stared at her in stunned disbelief, hardly able to process that her sister had recovered before her eyes. Relief swept through the group as everyone celebrated the successful cure. Arte embraced her little sister tightly, both of them overcome with emotion and tears of joy, marking a happy ending to their long, desperate struggle. Two men leaned against each other, exchanging quiet remarks about how heartwarming it was to see two sisters embracing after a long ordeal. Tuma stood some distance away, watching the reunion unfold near the stone wall. A cloaked woman knelt beside a smaller girl in the courtyard, the tension of the previous events finally beginning to ease. The chapter title marked this moment as the start of The White Oath and Companions, signaling a shift into the aftermath of the mission. The girl called Arte lowered her hand awkwardly, admitting that the person standing before them had technically tried to set up a meeting between her and someone else. Her expression carried embarrassment rather than anger, and the admission softened the mood among the group gathered in the courtyard. The armored woman turned to the smaller girl beside her and apologized, calling her big sis with genuine remorse. The girl accepted the apology but made a firm request in return, asking that no more reckless actions be taken on her behalf. Their exchange carried the weight of sisters trying to repair strained trust. The older sister pressed further, connecting the dots aloud as she realized the reckless attempt to stop Tuma had been rooted in protective instinct. Her tone shifted from accusation to understanding as the full picture came together, and the group watched the exchange from a short distance. Tuma stood with his back to the reader as a formal apology was delivered to him and his companions. The masked, horned figure beside the kneeling girl expressed gratitude on behalf of everyone who had helped protect her, closing the chapter on the earlier conflict with a note of sincerity. Excitement replaced solemnity as members of the group praised Tuma's abilities, calling him incredible. Others dismissed the achievement as sheer madness rather than skill, joking that the level of strength displayed was simply on another plane entirely, which explained why earlier attempts against him had failed. The armored woman reflected privately, admitting to herself that harming the very people who had saved her sister was something she could never bring herself to do. Her thoughts turned toward the need to apologize directly to the one she had wronged, her pride tempered by genuine regret. She wondered aloud whether that person would even be surprised by how everything had turned out, given how unpredictable the situation had become. Turning to the group, she declared the quest complete, addressing them formally as members of the White Oath, while the sisters stood close together, relief evident in their posture. Back at the city gates, a crowd gathered to celebrate the return of the adventurers. Tuma reminded everyone that the victory hadn't been achieved by his group alone, crediting the other fighters who had worn down the boss and cleared the path before their arrival. Standing before the cheering crowd, Tuma raised his arms and declared the achievement belonged to everyone involved, not just his own party. The people responded with raised fists and cheers, celebrating a shared victory rather than a single hero's triumph. The armored woman addressed the group once more, confirming that the promised reward of 300 million gold would be distributed as agreed. She reassured them that every participant would receive a fair and sufficient share for their contribution to the mission. Tuma expressed hope that the group would remain companions even after receiving such a large sum, worried that wealth might change the dynamic between them. He then made an unexpected proposal, suggesting the entire reward be used for all participants instead of being split narrowly among his own party. The woman reacted with visible shock at his response. Tuma explained his reasoning, noting that concentrating the reward on one person tends to breed resentment among others. He added that the decision had been discussed and agreed upon by the whole group beforehand, while in the background two companions joked about spending it all on books or merchandise, showing how differently people would use sudden wealth. The woman pressed further, acknowledging that they would still take a fair cut for the work performed, but her tone suggested there was more she wanted to say. She addressed Tuma directly, clearly moved by his decision and searching for the right words to respond. Tension flared as Tuma firmly told her not to insult his companions, defending their reasons for joining the quest as genuine rather than self-serving. He rejected the idea of bonding with someone by exploiting a sick boy, stating plainly that he wouldn't want his own illness cured through his sister's sacrifice, even if their positions were reversed. His conviction left a strong impression on everyone listening. The woman's expression softened into admiration as she admitted having nothing but respect for the pure and upright heart he had shown. She corrected her earlier assumptions about him, acknowledging that her judgment of his character had been wrong. In a lighter moment afterward, one of Tuma's companions remarked that he had done plenty for them as well, calling their accounts even. Another girl thanked him warmly by name, her gratitude genuine and unguarded as the group prepared to part ways. A playful scuffle broke out as one companion grabbed Tuma from behind in celebration, both of them laughing while the others looked on with amusement. The joy of the moment was unmistakable, a stark contrast to the earlier tension of apologies and accusations. As the group walked back through the city streets, casual conversation turned to plans for the evening. One member joked about how good the drinks would taste that night, while another suggested spending part of the reward on nicer alcohol to celebrate properly. Tuma, visibly exhausted, admitted he was completely worn out from the day's events. Elsewhere, a separate procession moved through a dim corridor, flanked by suited figures escorting the armored woman and her group. She muttered to herself in confusion, wondering where a certain party had disappeared to. Her confusion deepened as she noted that one group, expected to be found in the deepest area of the location, had vanished entirely. The dropouts who were supposed to be collected on the way back were nowhere to be found, leaving her with a growing sense that something unexpected had happened during the mission. A powerful strike sent one figure flying through the air as debris scattered violently around the impact zone. The armored woman stood at the center of the destruction, her tendril-like cloak whipping through the chaos while another person collapsed beneath the force of the blow. Two figures crashed through a wall and tumbled onto the ground below, shocking everyone who witnessed the sudden intrusion. Onlookers scrambled to make sense of the situation, questioning why anyone would be emerging from solid stone. Tuma pointed in disbelief as he realized the two people crawling out of the rubble belonged to the missing group everyone had been searching for. A young woman turned toward Tuma in confusion, unsure what the strange presence looming behind them actually was. His panicked warning to run cut through the tension just as a horde of grotesque snarling creatures surged forward from the darkness, their twisted faces bearing sharp teeth as the word monster echoed through the chamber. Confusion spread among the group as they questioned how anyone could have wandered into a monster spawn area in the first place. Someone speculated the missing pair had simply been searching for treasure when they stumbled into the deepest section of the dungeon while everyone else was busy fighting elsewhere. The mood turned grim as members admitted their magic reserves were nearly depleted from taking down the boss, leaving them dangerously low on resources despite the wounds being healed. Exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone, and the need to escape became impossible to ignore. The armored commander raised her fist and called out sharply, ordering everyone to assist those nearby as she declared an emergency retreat. Her voice carried authority through the panicked crowd, cutting through the noise as silhouettes of adventurers scrambled in the background. With the retreat underway, another voice shouted for the group to head straight for the teleportation gate. Bright light poured through the archway ahead, promising an exit from the crumbling dungeon as figures rushed toward the opening. A bridge came into view just as chaos erupted behind them, prompting frantic shouts to cross quickly before it was too late. A massive roar tore through the corridor as something monstrous forced its way through the passage, and a horned figure cursed under his breath, frustrated that the pursuing enemies refused to give up the chase. Amid the pursuit, the horned warrior barked orders for others to help everyone still trailing behind, volunteering himself to hold the line. Tuma stepped forward without hesitation, declaring he would cover the rear and buy time for the group to escape safely. A silent exchange passed between Tuma and his companion before the horned man gripped his shoulder firmly, warning him not to dare die in the fight ahead. Tuma accepted the command without complaint, acknowledging the seriousness of the warning as they prepared to face whatever came next. Frustration crept into Tuma's expression as he found himself once again stuck handling the most dangerous part of the mission. His companion Maria teased him for constantly ending up in these situations, jokingly asking if he secretly enjoyed the punishment, while he brushed off the comment and focused on the fight ahead. Maria's tone shifted from teasing to genuine concern as she reminded him that she couldn't patch him up if he died on her watch. Tuma's panicked shout of her name revealed how much her presence meant to him in the heat of battle. She responded with fierce determination, promising to heal every injury he sustained no matter how severe. Tuma pressed forward against the encroaching darkness, his weapon raised as monstrous figures closed in around him. The creatures snarled and reached toward him, their grotesque faces twisted with hunger, but he held his ground and prepared to strike back. The battle raged on as more monsters poured through the corridor behind the fleeing group. Maria gritted her teeth in determination while Tuma pushed forward through the swarm, cutting a path as claws and fangs closed in from every direction around him. A commanding voice called for two stragglers to hurry across the bridge as the rest of the group reached solid ground on the other side. Once everyone made it across, the order came to cut the bridge down entirely, severing the only path the monsters could use to follow them further. Tuma and Maria sprinted together across the swaying bridge, urging each other onward as they raced against time. A firm handshake sealed their resolve in that critical moment, a silent promise that they would make it through together. Racing forward with monsters snapping at their heels, the pair shouted for everyone to evacuate immediately. The pursuing creatures remained close behind, their jaws open and eyes locked on the fleeing duo as they pushed their bodies to the limit. In a brief moment of levity amid the chaos, Tuma admitted he thought Maria might be scared of crossing the bridge. She snapped back that her being a virgin had nothing to do with it, flustered by his observation, while he teased that she noticed an awful lot for someone claiming otherwise. The exchange broke the tension, if only for a heartbeat. Panic rippled through the group as someone warned that the monsters were gaining ground on them as well. Another voice pointed out that a massive swarm was closing in from behind, threatening to overwhelm the entire party. Despite the danger, the commander insisted they wait until Tuma and Maria made it back safely before abandoning the position. One of the armored figures demanded to know what exactly Tuma meant to the rest of the group, questioning why so many were willing to risk everything for him. His companions gripped their weapons tightly in response, their silence speaking louder than any explanation could, visibly ready to fight for his safety without hesitation. The final clash erupted as blades clashed against monstrous claws in a desperate struggle to hold the line. Tuma and Maria broke through at last, sprinting toward the safety of their companions as the horned warrior and others stood ready to receive them. Behind them, the armored woman's expression hardened, watching the chaos unfold with fierce resolve as the group prepared for whatever came next. The bridge gave way beneath their feet just as Tuma and Maria reached the far side, the wooden planks collapsing into the void below with a violent snap. Debris scattered through the air as the structure tore itself apart, leaving nothing but empty space where the crossing had been moments earlier. The destruction roared through the chasm as monsters plummeted alongside the wreckage, their forms tumbling helplessly into the darkness below. On solid ground, the two guards stood firm, declaring that protecting Tuma and Maria was their job, and nothing more. Their resolve carried through as they insisted the sacrifice of the bridge had been necessary to secure everyone's escape. Maria's face twisted in shock and dawning horror as the weight of what had just happened settled in, her voice breaking off before she could finish her thought. With the bridge destroyed and the immediate danger behind them, Tuma dug his sword into the cliff face and hauled himself upward, pulling Maria along by the hand. The climb strained every muscle in his body, but he pressed forward without complaint. Once he reached solid footing, he paused to catch his breath, wondering aloud what their next move should be. From a distance, the two guards watched the pair make their way up the rock face. Maria's expression darkened as she muttered about people who toy with the lives of others purely for their own convenience, adding bitterly that she knew men were always like that. Her frustration lingered, unresolved from whatever had happened earlier. Tuma gripped her wrist firmly, urging her to let go and climb the rest of the way on her own if she truly intended to reveal her real nature. Maria admitted that handling just one obstacle like this might be within her limits, her tone shifting from defiance to quiet effort as she focused on the climb ahead. A sudden crack echoed through the cliffside as the rock beneath them gave way without warning. Tuma's calm exclamation turned into a full scream of alarm as the ground crumbled beneath his feet, sending both him and Maria tumbling into open air. Falling through the void, Tuma reached out desperately and called Maria's name, his voice cutting through the chaos of the collapse. The wind tore at his clothes as he twisted his body to shield her, refusing to let her fall alone. The cliffside continued to crumble violently, sending massive chunks of rock crashing down into the abyss below. Dust and debris filled the air as the destruction settled, leaving only silence and rubble scattered across the canyon floor far beneath where the two had once stood. The remaining guards stared down at the wreckage in horror, demanding to know what had just happened as they processed the scale of the collapse. Maria's face went pale with panic before someone corrected the confusion, clarifying that what she'd seen wasn't a threat but simply Goddess watching over them from above. Back at the surface, tension gripped the other guards as they braced for what came next. Koyuki's eyes glowed with barely restrained fury as she declared she would never forgive any of them if something happened to Tuma. Her voice carried a warning edge, making clear that his safety was non-negotiable to her. The group scrambled to find a solution, debating options aloud. One voice pointed out that descending into a bottomless cliff carried too much risk, while another dismissed the idea of using flight magic, noting it would drain far too much power to be practical given their circumstances. Frustration boiled over as one of them, a hulking armored figure, demanded to know what they were supposed to do instead. Someone snapped back, asking for a moment to think without being pressured, while another sarcastically suggested climbing down the sheer wall by hand if no better plan existed. Two witches exchanged words about their equipment, one admitting she hadn't brought her broomstick because it tended to get in the way inside dungeons. The other pressed the question further, asking directly what had happened to her flying broomstick, clearly hoping it might solve their current predicament. The witch considered the problem carefully, suggesting there might be something they could still manage to pull off despite the setback. She proposed combining whatever magic power remained between Clay, Koyuki, and herself, calculating whether their combined strength would be enough to attempt a rescue. Her expression turned serious as she warned that failure would mean certain death for everyone involved. The group reacted with alarm, demanding to know exactly what needed to be done, their voices overlapping in urgency as the stakes became clear. Another voice chimed in, insisting on joining the effort despite the danger, while someone else urged the group to hurry before it was too late. The decision was made quickly, and everyone prepared to move forward with the plan, however risky it might be. As the group regrouped, one of the sisters greeted the witch with visible relief, only to be met with a sharp, amused response. The witch laughed coldly, remarking that she supposed she'd simply laugh at all of them, adding that humans truly were foolish creatures in her eyes. The armored commander stepped forward, insisting she needed to focus on bringing the remaining adventurers home safely. She reminded the group that they all had their own duties to fulfill and needed to prepare to regroup properly, instructing them to leave the search for Tuma and Maria to the White Oath instead. Far below, deep within the canyon, silence settled over the jagged rock formations. The cliffs stretched endlessly in both directions, their surfaces cracked and worn, giving no indication of what had happened to the two who had fallen. A grotesque, tentacled creature stirred among the rocks above, its form pulsing unnaturally in the dim light. Below, a massive shape lay motionless against the stone, its texture rough and scarred, hinting at some larger presence lurking within the depths of the ravine. Memories surfaced of a time when Maria had been naive about the true nature of the men she once traveled with, having joined a party without understanding what lay beneath their outward kindness. She recalled believing they'd built a decent relationship despite occasional unwanted advances, only to be abandoned by them to save themselves during a crisis. Reflecting on that betrayal, she admitted plainly that she had been wrong to trust them. In the present, dust and debris settled around a figure sprawled against the rubble below. A ghostly image of Maria's memory flickered above, her past smile contrasting sharply with the present danger. Below, another face watched intently, a faint smile forming despite the tension, as the two survivors prepared to face whatever waited for them at the bottom of the fallen cliff. A dark-haired woman approached Maria with a knowing smile, calling her a poor thing, and explaining that men sometimes band together simply to prey on girls. Her words carried a strange comfort, framing Maria's suffering as proof of a pattern rather than an isolated incident. Memories surfaced of the teacher who had saved Maria's life after her former companions cast her aside. Despite that kindness, Maria admitted her own foolishness in refusing to trust the teacher fully, choosing instead to return to the people who had once been her friends. She recalled walking back to the guild afterward, believing the men had abandoned her for the sake of saving more people during the crisis. Maria had convinced herself that once she found them again, they would apologize to her in tears, genuinely remorseful for what happened. Instead, she witnessed those same men grinning as they recruited new members to replace her, treating her disappearance as nothing more than a convenient opportunity. The sight burned itself into her memory, exposing their true nature as nothing but beasts who cared for no one but themselves. Alone and soaked in the pouring rain, Maria sat curled against a windowsill, staring blankly at the storm outside. The city around her blurred into shadows and rainfall, mirroring the hollow ache settling deep inside her chest. The woman from before found her there, standing beneath an umbrella as she looked down at Maria with a mixture of pity and something darker. She murmured that they had toyed with Maria's pure heart and her very life, calling her nothing but a poor girl caught in men's cruelty. Maria's expression darkened as doubt crept into her thoughts, wondering aloud whether more suffering awaited her in the future. She questioned whether she had truly been the first victim, or if others before her had suffered the same fate at similar hands. The woman's smile twisted into something colder as she suggested that someone needed to punish men like that. She pressed further, asking Maria if it wouldn't feel incredibly satisfying to destroy them using the very womanhood they had once looked down upon and dismissed. Standing beneath the rain with a confident smile, the woman promised Maria she could become one hell of a woman, someone capable of exposing these enemies for what they truly were, and bringing about their ruin. Maria hesitated, quietly asking if she could really be capable of something like that. Reflecting on what came after, Maria recalled seducing and praising every man in power she encountered, targeting those who cheated, oppressed, or exploited others based on gender. She admitted to making each one hers before systematically destroying them, one after another, without mercy. In a quieter moment, surrounded by remnants of past victories, Maria confessed that lately she no longer knew what she believed anymore. She admitted that watching Tuma rush toward the White Oath had stirred something unfamiliar in her, though she described her past actions as satisfying, like saving her former weaker self through vengeance. She recalled the moment she decided to ruin them all, viewing every man as trash deserving punishment. Yet standing at a crossroads, she wondered if perhaps not every single one of them truly deserved that fate, watching a lone figure walk away in the distance. Back in the present, panic swept through Maria as she realized Tuma might still be alive despite the fall. A massive tentacled creature loomed nearby, its jagged form pulsing as it prepared to strike. Diving forward, Maria reached for her fallen staff just as realization struck her. Tuma had shielded her body with his own during the fall, taking the brunt of the impact to protect her from harm. Confusion and desperation crossed Maria's face as she demanded to know why he'd done something so reckless, insisting there were plenty of replacements for a white mage like her. Despite her protest, she raised her staff and cast healing magic over him, refusing to let him die. Tuma stirred weakly, questioning aloud whether comrades ultimately only cared about themselves in the end. Maria's face contorted with pain as she cried out that men were beasts, the lowest creatures alive who preyed on women without remorse, her old wounds resurfacing through her panic. Kneeling over his motionless body with her staff raised high, Maria whispered that everything she had believed and done until now might have been wrong all along. The realization shattered the certainty she had clung to for so long. Through tears, she admitted that not everyone was as much of a piece of shit as the men who had betrayed her long ago. She confessed this truth aloud, tears falling freely as she begged him not to betray her trust the way the others once had, despite calling him and his companions stupidly insane. Tuma remained unconscious as Maria's cries grew more desperate, demanding that he hurry up and open his eyes already. Her voice cracked under the weight of fear and helplessness as she refused to accept the possibility of losing him. The monstrous creature loomed above them both, its massive jaws opening wide as Maria stood her ground, staff raised in defiance. Below her, Tuma lay vulnerable on the ground, and Maria prepared to fight with everything she had left to protect him from the beast closing in. Realization struck the massive creature as it recalled that monsters typically turn into magic stones upon death, exposing a gaping wound across its body. Maria's eyes widened in horror as she processed the impossible truth staring back at her, the beast still very much alive despite everything. Maria stood frozen before the towering tiger-striped monster, recognizing immediately that this wasn't an opponent a healer could hope to defeat alone. She muttered under her breath that this situation had become the worst possible outcome, her body tense with dread as the creature loomed over her. Her thoughts drifted back to a painful memory, understanding at last why her former companions had abandoned her years ago. She acknowledged that if she wanted to survive, leaving someone behind and running had been the only logical choice available to them at the time. Tears welled in her eyes as she admitted she still couldn't forgive them for it, though she could finally understand the calculation behind their betrayal. Standing her ground before the beast, Maria declared firmly that the man behind her belonged to her alone, claiming him as her prey rather than the monster's next meal. Her voice carried unshakable resolve despite the danger looming just inches away. Gripping her staff tightly, Maria raised it toward the creature and refused to hand Tuma over to something like it. Her expression hardened with determination, a stark contrast to the fear she had felt only moments before, ready to fight for the person who had once shielded her from harm.